really think you have a chance against us, Mr. Cowboy?
Hey, motherfucker, what do you like to do?
Oh, I don't know. Play chess. Screw.
Well, let's play chess.
They give off to Jonathan Taylor. Jump cutting his way close to the goal line. He's in there. Touchdown. INDY. Jonathan Taylor.
Wheeler finds Quan from the logo.
Here's Haliburton into the front court. Mishandled it, but gets a shot. Hits it. Hits it.
John, I have never been better to be on the air with you here in Indianapolis, a place where so many of my dreams have come true.
The Ride with JMV on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
You can be angry, you can be depressed, you can be mad. When you're competing and still do your job, that's great you feel that way. That's great that they're loud. But, like, how many times have you been in, like, when you got guys that have played 100 college games, that have been in these venues, that have been in the final game, that have been in a Final Four, that have won Big Ten championships, like, doesn't mean you're going to have your best game all the time. But you put your best foot forward all the time. If that makes any sense to you. We didn't put our best foot forward.
That's Matt Painter right there. A lot of things he said after the game. IU gets a win over Purdue yesterday, 73-58. We got the conversation for you. Welcome to the show regarding that and a lot of other stuff that he was asking. He's on here all the time, and you know when he's asked, he's going to answer it. And he's going to tell you exactly how he feels. And he did that yesterday. That was a call out to his team. We'll check in with Chris Kramer, the former guard, coming up here at the bottom of the hour regarding his thoughts on that. He'd mentioned last week that he had hoped at some point they were going to have, they being the Boilermakers, a players-only meeting, and if they have not, I would assume he would definitely believe that needs to take place now. 4 consecutive losses, and about the most forgettable, other than it being so nightmarish, second half that you have seen. And it's been odd this season. There have been a lot of bad second halves Purdue has had. Yesterday, the second half of Ohio State, the second half against Wisconsin. And I'd make an argument. You go back to that win over USC, and that was somewhat, even in a win, a forgettable second half of play. And this is a team that you have to go all the way back to the 20s in January, I think to the Michigan game, to see when defensively they held a team beneath 70 points. That was the last time. So defensively, they have been a major issue. Obviously, the Wisconsin games come to mind, but in this case, the defense has been an issue. Somebody had mentioned to me yesterday, up until the game and the loss against IU, that Purdue had been, outscored by 46 most recently in their last 3, I think it was. Maybe it was up until that point yesterday, and the game was still ongoing. But by 46 in the second half. So there is a major malfunction going on there. And on the other side with IU, this is what I gathered by being at the game yesterday. It makes you wonder why this group cannot come out and play like they did in the second half more than what you have seen this year, which is basically that second half. Why could you not offer up more? Why is not more asked for? Why do these players not accommodate? Because that was it on both ends. I'm going to tell you what. Everybody out there says they love defense, and nobody really loves defense. You only love defense is when somebody else is doing the work for you and it's successful. That's really the only time. I don't blame you. Yeah, defense does suck. It's not any fun, but it is a requirement. It is a requirement to be a good team. It is a massive requirement to be a great team. And IU, I thought, showed you in the second half what a motivated team can do on the defensive end, because they shut Purdue out completely. I mean, you talk about shutting a group down. You talk about making life miserable for Braden Smith, making life miserable for Trey Kaufman-Wren. That's exactly what they did. And it begs you to wonder why that doesn't or couldn't happen more. Because it's okay to ask for, hell, you should expect it. That's exactly, and I know you're going to say, well, it's Purdue and it's different. Come on. It shouldn't be different. It should be even more of a requirement given the financial gains now. That should be more of a requirement. I thought you saw some really motivated in-state dudes go after it yesterday. And we'll get into what Matt Painter was talking about when asked about the IU job. And believe me, in the words of Matt, it was regarding the IU job, and it was also regarding himself. I think he also thrust himself into everybody recognizing that the over-the-top jackassery in social media wears people out. And it does. I'm not suggesting that is the overwhelming portion of the fan base, because IU has a tremendous fan base. And not everybody acts like jackasses like a lot of them do. But when you're talking about a lot of coaches now, especially these new age, these new era coaches, when you're talking about certainly the players, everybody notices it. And what Matt said yesterday was true. Now, also, Matt was going to defend what? He was going to defend coaches. And I'm assuming Matt also grew up as an IU fan, as he did, and probably grew up as a Mike Woodson fan. So he was going to defend Mike Woodson. And I know IU fans got bent out of shape about that. And you got some crying and whining. Well, this is where our standard is and blah, blah, whatever, your standard. All right, you're getting exactly what I talked about last week. You're getting what you want now. We'll see how long it lasts. But you are getting a new coach at the end of the year, regardless. There's no saving the gig. And then you're hoping they're able to author some sort of end of the regular season run and get back to the tournament. So honestly, you are getting what you want. I say this all the time, and I'm not the first one. I feel like I was really in the early stages of this, but it's not an original thought. The best dude for the IU job was talking and was asked about the IU job and answered the question last night, honestly. Or yesterday afternoon, I guess I should say. Because you want people to get it. Now, obviously, that's not going to happen, but that guy gets it. There are certain people where you have to understand it matters how you grew up and how you soak stuff up. I say this all the time about this gig, what I do. I couldn't do this anywhere else. You're going to say, well, hell, you can't even do it sitting right there, and you're right. But I sure as hell couldn't do it anywhere else. Nobody's going to listen to my blabber for 5 minutes about all this crap, but you know what? The connection is made between most of us, unless you're a huge nerd. Most of us, you and I, we make a connection together because of where we're from, how we grew up. And even if we were in different places, we all have similar memories. It matters. And you know what you do? You develop a great deal of inner pride. That's how pride is established. I thought the in-state dudes, where it really matters, the Galloways, the Leals, the Goodies. I'm not suggesting, like Miles Rice had his best game of the season. And you always wondered what in the hell happened there. But he had his best game of the season, and certainly that second half. And I thought a lot of what he established happened on the defensive end. I thought Ballo was okay. When Ballo can hustle ass occasionally down the floor, he can be a difference maker because he is a tough cover on the interior because he weighs so much more than everybody else, and he's so much bigger than everybody else. So they had out-of-state dudes that are just there for the money. Those guys were engaged yesterday, too. But I just thought the heartbeat of the type of second half that you saw was established by dudes that clearly understand what it means to be there and to play there, even if they're not overwhelmingly talented. And never lose sight of that. It's very easy to lose sight of that in this era because you're IU and you have that huge bankroll of NIL and you top 5 NIL money-wise. Anybody comes in there, and for the most part, you can pay them for being a part of it. But what you're not buying in that process is that pride that I discuss, that inner drive because you know what it means. I thought that Ballo, I thought that Rice, I thought they established that competitive angle in the second half especially. But it's the guys that have been there and done that from here that really, truly knows. They know what it means. And that is something that you cannot neglect from a roster ever around here. Ever. Don't do it. Now, it helps, for example, if you can shoot a little bit. Like Carlisle out there, I was at the game yesterday, and I don't know if I ever remember a time, and I feel bad about pointing this out. This is really what Matt Painter was talking about after the game yesterday, but I hate pointing this out. But I don't know if I've ever remember a crowd groan when, and I mean groan not as in groans up, but groan as in GROAN, groan whenever a player lifts to shoot. Before the release, it's like, oh, God. Wait a minute. That's not supposed to sound that way. You're supposed to be excited about it. You're supposed to be fired up about, oh, God. Oh. The groan. That's never good. So we saw a couple of different things yesterday that need to be addressed with this team in the present and with this team and this program in the future. And you also saw Matt Painter after the game getting into his own guys, calling out his own guys. And he is perfectly willing to say what needs to be said. And again, not disrespectfully, whatever that is from coach to player. It used to be nothing, but I know that there are lines now drawn in the sand for whatever reason. I mean, you can't coach and you can't teach the way you used to. That's some bad thing, which just is stupid as hell, but whatever. But you could tell after the game he was getting into his guys. He was getting into Braden. He was getting into Trey Kaufman-Aran. And Trey is so good, and he got out of control yesterday. People got all over me because I thought that the so-called nut kick and whatever, that it was a play on. I'm sorry, it was a play on. You know, maybe if Leo makes contact with the sackage, then it's more than that. Do I think that did he have intentions on, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to stomp on this dude's sack. I don't think he had those intentions. Was he trying to push off of him to get down the floor? Yes. They were tangled up under the goal, had zero to do with the play that was already down at the other end. Just let her roll. But instead, you got to whistle it, and you got to watch it, and it takes 10 minutes. I bet 3 songs. The DJ probably played 3 songs during that time. I'm going, holy crap. Just go ahead and play on. Swallow the whistle and go. And how did they end up choosing to go with it? Which I didn't know you could do. They did take back the foul call, but they did, after 10 minutes, what they should have done all along. Yeah, 2 guys are getting tangled up. Nobody's hurt. Nobody's getting the benefit of a 5-on-4 on the other end. Everything's still even. Just let her roll. And then people said, well, wait a minute. I bet you thought that Trey Kaufman-Aran, that was a flagrant. Anytime in this era of basketball, if anybody out there has watched a second, please understand this. When an elbow goes anywhere near the cranial piece of an opposing player, there's always going to be a flagrant. It is always going to be that way. And especially if there's contact, if there's near contact, because elbow to head nowadays, 100% of the time, always looks egregious. And they're always going to go flagrant. Always. Just take my word for it. Don't argue with me. I know everybody wanted to argue with me last night. Don't argue with me. The officials got it right, but it could have been expedited. We could have got out of there 20 minutes earlier had they made the right call in the first place. And anytime there is elbow to head contact or even near contact most of the time, then you're going to get a flagrant out of it. They're going to go to the monitor. They're going to look. It nowadays is a rite of passage. Now, 1985, that would have been a foul call on Galloway's face. But this is not 1985. Thus, you got the flagrant. But getting back to Kaufman-Renn has got to stay away from silly fouls. This guy is incredibly intelligent. And there are just times out there when he loses it a little bit. I think Braden loses it a little bit too. And I think you're incredibly competitive, and then you kind of lose it a little bit out there. I think Matt had put it, you don't stay connected. Well, you're just a big fan of Matt. Well, I am a huge, tremendous fan of Matt. There's no doubt about that. But so much of what he had to say yesterday was right, and everybody's got to break it down. Listen, some of it was based upon his experience at Purdue right now. There's no doubt about that. You know, not only was he talking to the IU fan base, those that get on social media and act like jackasses, but he was talking about his own fan base that get on social media and act like jackasses. Yeah, it wasn't a mixed message because the message was the same, but he was spreading it out. Seriously. You have a coach, and coaches are going to back other coaches. And there was nothing about, well, you just want to make sure you keep Woodson around because, IU's a bad team. Well, I mean, Woodson's, I think, even on his career against Painter. Had nothing to do with that. Just telling everybody how social media can get out of control. These guys have to deal with that every day. These players are not oblivious to it. There's no way in the world they can ignore it, and I guarantee you if they say they ignore it, they don't. You can't ignore it. I can't ignore it. None of us can ignore it. Once you get into it, it sucks because it really shouldn't matter, but it does. 100% accurate across the board right there. Full-scale discussion I got for you. Chris Kramer is going to join us coming up at the bottom of the hour. For that later on today, I'm going to give my thoughts out. Luke Basso is the director of athletics for IU-Indy. Is going to join us coming up in the 4 o'clock hour, 4:30. Did you see the pictures of the burned-up bus on their way back from northern Kentucky and a road trip? Incredible stuff. So we're going to see and talk to Luke. And you know how much I feel about Luke and Paul Casaro. My good friend Mike Burris is an assistant coach over there from Greene County, from Owensburg. We're from the same community. So we're going to talk up how we can all help IU-Indy because that was some scary stuff yesterday, everybody. All their belongings, for the most part, burned up inside that bus. I think basically all they got out with was what they had on them at the time. That is some scary stuff right there. Luke Basso is the director of athletics. He joins us today. Coming up at around 4:30, Stephen Holder, the combine. I went down and got my credential today. Can you see the smile on my face? You guys see it? Oh, I don't know. We disappeared right there, James.
Yeah, the camera, I think, just turned off.
You can't see? Yeah, no wonder. That's very appropriate. Is the camera broken? What kind of jackassery do we have going on in here? There we go. Oh, there's a smile. Is that a fraudulent smile right there? So tomorrow I'll be down at the NFL Combine. Kevin and Jeff Rickard and I walked over and got our credentials today. Yeah, I know. I like to poke fun at it. I always think it sucks, though, because we sit there and they parade everybody in the world All these tremendous football players that never have a second to stop and talk. We all have a second to stop and talk. We don't have to talk for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. You don't have to hang that long, but I've really had some bad experiences down there, too. I had a Schefter experience. I've, had multi-Schefter experiences, and that's one of them. So, one day and one day only with me at the NFL Combine. And me and the new DC coming up tomorrow afternoon. Stephen Holder is going to join us. We'll talk about that and a lot of other stuff we'll be looking at in the 5 o'clock hour. JJ, Jeremiah Johnson, Pacers TV. Impressive win over the Clippers. I know, no Norman Powell, no Kawhi Leonard doing what you need to do, but the second of the back-to-back going to be highly difficult against the Nuggets. Nuggets had won 9 straight and then got depantsed by the Lakers the other night and Luka. We'll talk to that and a lot more with Jeremiah Johnson coming up here in the 4 o'clock hour. Is it true? Do I have stuff to give away? Accurate?
We do indeed. We have
Wonderful.
a Cluster Truck gift card giveaway.
Cluster Truck gift card giveaway.
And Dropkick Murphys and Bad Religion.
Dropkick Murphys. Is that now the song you play during St. Patrick's Day?
Or Kicking Up to Boston? Yeah, I think so.
Bad Religion's good stuff, though, right?
They're pretty good.
Is that up your alley? That's not the thrash metal weirdness that you listen to, but it's not too far away, right?
It's all right.
Is it kind of a cousin of, not a distant cousin, but a cousin of what you do?
A little bit. I'll listen to it. It's not something I'll throw on, but I'll listen to it.
Everwise is going to be the site for that. We'll give away those tickets coming up a little bit later on. No, honestly, I did watch the Pacers yesterday, and you're just doing what you have to do right now. And the one thing that has to stand out to everybody, what might that be? The one thing that should stand out to you right now is the simple fact that Tyrese Haliburton is the straw, and he stirs. And he is doing it while getting everybody else involved and while doing what else? The answer would be getting his. He is getting his and then creating for others. That's what makes this story so incredibly perfect. That's what makes this Pacer team the best it can be. You factor in the pace. You factor in the production. When he does that, that's where it starts. And you can argue otherwise, but you would be inaccurate. That's where it starts. Everybody else involved while also making sure he gets his. Very true. Shout out to Matt Goins yesterday, who took me down there. So I'm playing a little pickup basketball yesterday at Center Grove in the morning time, right? And I said, hey, you want to go down to IU? I said, yeah, go ahead. Stops to get me. 30 minutes later, we're down there. I'm watching, and I come back home and watch the Pacers. It was a beautiful Sunday. Normally, I just kind of sit there, kind of pass out, fall asleep at times, take a bunch of naps, but it was all good. I had not been, James, to an IU game in about 10-plus years there. Really, I think I'd only been to one since the Watt Shot. Michael Grady and I attended the Watt Shot together and almost saw Matt Jones of Kentucky Sports Radio die right before us. That's when the stripper got stepped on, and so did Matt Jones. So I was right there for it. And Grady and I, this Matt Jones is kind of soft. Well, he's incredibly soft. I mean, he's a nice guy. He's never done anything to me, but he's not a guy. He probably cried a little bit, but I think he got stepped on and he was offended by it. And then remember the stripper that got stepped on too after the Watt Shot make? So that was, I think it was in a North Carolina game after that, but that was the first time in about 10 years since I've been down there to an IU game at Assembly Hall. I want to thank Matt for that. It was a good time watching. I like seeing it, I do. All right, James, I'm going to break right here. Todd told me to listen to James when he tells me to break. It pisses me off, but I'll do it anyway. Stuff to give away, and we've got Chris Kramer coming up on the other side. Boilers loses a 4 straight, where they need to go, and more on the thoughts of Matt Painter after the game from the former guard Chris Kramer, who joins us. That is coming up next. 239-1070, email address jmv1075thefan.com, inside the AAA Membership Lounge via YouTube Live. Shout out if you attended the AAA Travel Expo on Saturday. I had heard that was spectacular. Well done. And we're on the way to getting a vacation for this show cobbled together as we speak. About that. Quick break. We'll come back. That and more with you coming up on this Monday. 93.5, 107.5, The Fan.
JMV.
If somebody gets in your face and calls you a I want you to be nice.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Now the second of a back-to-back for the Pacers and the Nuggets. So, winners of 9 of 10? It's a healthy battle coming up later on tonight. I'm telling you, Haliburton plays like that. You get the most out of it. That's what makes this team the absolute best. Jeff says, so I go to my first Pacer game since 2016 in the postseason. Absolutely loved it. Let me tell you in person, Miles Turner is 30 times better. Actually, watching the game live showed me that. Not scoreboard watching, not even watching it on TV. Miles is fantastic. Again, if you're still on the fence, not believing he's essential personnel for this Pacer team, then you are a huge dumbass. And don't be that. And it's okay. I have to own things all the time. I'm wrong often. It's okay if you're wrong. But the easiest part about it is admitting it and then moving on. On the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline, the former Boilermaker guard Chris Kramer, we had promised a reemergence from him on this show to kind of clean some things up from the game yesterday down in Bloomington between Purdue and IU. And Chris joins us once again on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Hello, Chris. How are you?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Got a team searching clearly for solutions. I thought you had a head coach and maybe not directly, but certainly calling out a couple of his guys in the post-game presser. Where does your former team, in your estimation, go from here?
Man, there's only two ways to go. You're going to stay on the same track, and you have 3 more games, 1 Big Ten tournament game, and potentially a NCAA tournament game, and that's going to be it. Or you're going to find a way to right the ship, come together, find some connectiveness, some cohesiveness, play for that name on the front of the jersey, and find a way to get this thing rolling in the right direction. And it's a collective effort. It's got to be everybody. Everybody's got to be moving in the right way, in the right direction. So everybody's got to be on the same page. There's definitely been discipline breakdown issues the past 4 games. But the good news for Purdue fans is there's still time to get this thing figured out before March.
So Chris Kramer joins us. I don't know how you felt coming out of halftime. I thought Purdue had established, taken complete control, and I know that the second half performances have been oftentimes lackluster here in the past month, but I did not expect the defensive domination by IU and the complete and utter offensive discombobulation by the Boilers.
Yeah, to say I'm right there with you is an understatement. I felt like at halftime it was kind of like Mortal Kombat a little bit, and we have them, and it's just like, hey, we need to throw a couple haymakers here, and we can blow this thing wide open. The unfortunate part of that was we turned the ball over, gave up 7 points in about a minute, and things just completely derailed and snowballed from there. IU, to all the credit, came out and just completely took Purdue out of everything offensively. Miles Rice, Anthony Leal were incredible defensively. Trey Galloway, Malik Renew were awesome offensively. And collectively, there's no way around it. They just kicked the shit out of Purdue.
Chris Kramer's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. So you mentioned players-only meeting last week, and who knows whether or not they had one. You may know by now, but if you're the leader of this team, I'm assuming you would have had it last week, but it is more than time to come together as a group of team members right now and right this ship, correct?
Absolutely. The leader's got to lead, and, we can be nice about it. And, we can have a kumbaya moment of like, hey, man, this is what we got to do. We got to come together. Or we can get real And, we're not going to get personal, but we're going to have a quote-unquote come-to-Jesus moment with everybody in the team and, how we're going to right this thing. Because right now it is make or break. There is 3 games left. Purdue has great potential. You've seen that, this season. But also Purdue can beat themselves, and you've seen that too. So which team is going to show up and, enter the court? Each half can be completely different. And the thing that, needs to happen that, we need to see is as fans is just the team that goes out there and just lays it all on the line, just plays as hard as they can, because playing hard is going to take care of a lot of things. It's not always going to be pretty. Basketball is a game of mistakes. There's turnovers, but, not all turnovers are created equal. Live ball turnovers can be absolute killers, and that's what ultimately sparked IU feeling good. And then when a team feels good and gets confidence, man, even if they've lost, 6 out of 7, once good teams with good players get their heads up, man, it can be a long night. And that's what ultimately happened in the second half, for IU against Purdue.
This Chris Kramer, the former Boiler Guards on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Purdue Friday at home versus UCLA. We can get into that in a second. But did we hear your head coach, your former head coach, Matt Painter, calling out some guys in that post-game presser yesterday? Is that what you heard?
Yeah, I think so. But, I think there's a right and a wrong way to do it. I think he did it the right way. With great opportunity comes a great responsibility. And you've earned this opportunity to be leaders on this team and, all of those things. And there's a responsibility that comes with that. So, it just comes with looking at yourself in the mirror. Did I lay it on the line? Could I have played better? How could I have played better? And just, correcting those things, correcting the mistakes defensively. So, hopefully it sparked a fire underneath these guys to, first of all, want to correct it. They don't need to correct it for anybody other than themselves. The thing that I think Purdue fans lose is that they can be pissed off, they can be mad after a loss, but if Purdue losing a basketball game is the worst thing in their life, then life is pretty good. And no matter how bad they feel, the players and the coaching staff feel even worse. So it's all about perspective, but he definitely called out some people. And on Friday night, I'm ready for a big response from some of those guys.
Give me a solution, and especially coming off of that game, some of the disappointments you saw in your former team in the second half, and some solutions starting at the top before I cut you loose here on Friday against UCLA.
I think, first of all, Braden needs to be aggressive. I've said it all year. An aggressive Braden is the best Braden, whether that's being aggressive off the pick and roll, taking shots, or getting in deep, creating, spraying out for threes. He has to be aggressive in creating for himself and for each other, or for others. When he gets hesitant and kind of loses confidence, ultimately it takes a whole dimension out of the team, and he needs to play with the utmost confidence because his teammates and the coaching staff have all that confidence in him. Trey Kaufman-Renn needs to get back to being the absolute monster. And then I think when people come in double, finding that pass out, reposting again, trying to get a deeper position, and, looking for that ball back and then making quick moves. But we can talk about offense all we want. It's going to come down to defensively flying around, getting back to dictating and shutting off the water of the other team like Purdue did in that second half of that last 10 minutes of the first half. Just completely took everything IU wanted away. and we're able to flip the script and be up 12 at halftime. They got to do that collectively for 40 minutes, and just leaving it on the floor. They got to be the first of the four for loose balls. They have to win every 50-50 ball. They have to stop complaining and bitching about the refs, and just go out there and play. Complaining to the refs, no matter who it is, no matter if you're the leader or a role player, it's not going to do any good. Refs have egos. It's national televised games. They don't want to get shown up. It's ultimately just going to screw you more. Just go out there and play and control what you can control.
Before I let you go, you mentioned passing out of the double teams and reestablishing a low post presence in position. Malik Renew, I thought, was spectacular with that in the second half yesterday. I thought really offensively that was one of the keys. Locking down defensively was at the top of the list, but when they came over and double team Malik Renew, he would find a cutting Galloway or a corner wide open look from Goody. I thought he was excellent in the second half doing that.
Yeah, he was phenomenal. I would say some of those were breakdowns defensively, but when a team breaks down, you have to punish them, and IU was able to do that. Malik Renew, 7 for 7 from the field, and that's with him getting in foul trouble. But I think the coaching staff for IU deserves a lot of credit, making a bold move and sitting Ballo and Mbako to start the game, and then Mbako playing. I don't even think he touched the court in the second half.
He did not. He did not get subbed in, no.
Rolling with Leal and Galloway, Miles Rice. Those guys came, and they came out of the locker room in the second half with a vengeance. And, they dominated that second half. So, ultimately, sad for Purdue, but you got to give credit to IU. They came out and they just came to another level that second half.
It is Chris Kramer right there. I saw, and I got to run here, but you were exhausted by the social media postings from Boilermaker fans, kind of as similar as it appears Matt Painter is exhausted about reading everything right on social media about basketball.
Yeah, I think, social media is a great thing. It's put these guys in position to earn money off of it and all that things, name, image, and likeness. But the caveat to that is they see everything, the good and the bad. And to just compound and pile on these guys when they're down isn't going to help anything. We need to support them. We need to, they need to fill Mackey on Friday night and come out and support, those guys and do everything that as fans we can do to help Purdue win that game and hopefully turn one game into a winning streak and get rolling as they head into March.
Hey, I tell you what, Chris, too, Big Ten tournament-wise, if you're down for a game or something, we're doing a show that day or you have time, stop by and you can do some live minutes with us on the air, too. We'd really enjoy that.
Okay, man. Sounds good. I'll let you know.
You got it, Chris. Thanks.
Yep, thank you.
It's Chris Kramer right there, the Andy Moore Automotive Group Hotline. He was fired up. I'm telling you, it's just kind of a rite of passage on this show, the S-bomb. Now, is it fixed? The delay fixed?
I have been told it's fixed.
Cool.
So let's see.
It doesn't bother me. I don't care, to be honest. I mean, whatever. But I know that others higher-ups do. But it always seems to happen right here. Quick break. We return. Jeremiah Johnson, top of the hour. Don't go anywhere. Luke Basso, the director of athletics, IU-Indy. Their situation was flat scary yesterday. We'll talk about that and Stephen Holder in the 5 o'clock hour. Sit tight. 93.5, 107.5, The Fan.
with exceptional hair.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Chris Kramer, podcast 1075thefan.com. Lou Anarumo tomorrow, the new defensive coordinator of the Colts. 5 o'clock hour, I believe, will join us. We're going to find out absolutely everything. Jeremiah Wheatley says, we're all adults here. Foul language is an everyday event. We won't file any complaints. I'm more surprised by someone who doesn't drop a curse word. I'm right there with you on that. I told James I don't care. Now, I'm not supposed to say that because I'm not trying to prod you to do it more. And James is probably thinking the same thing, but hell, I don't care. Why should I care?
It is kind of getting to the point where you're not a regular scheduled guest on our show unless you drop that on the air here.
I enjoy it. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm just going to be honest. I don't care. And the thing about Chris is I'm not a fan of it just to do it. Like when we were all 10 years old, we did it just to do it. But if it's in the moment, and in this case, you're emotional about something, and that's what happens, then my toes are still tapping. Do it. Joe says the ones that listen to you don't give a blank either. See? I just don't. I'm not going to do it to do it. If it flows and it's just how you're talking, then that's it. John Bullock writes this. Funny that the stuff Painter and Kramer were saying is basically the same thing that Woodson was saying at the end of last year, and everyone, including people on this station, were killing him for it. John will also say this. I'm assuming that what Chris would talk about, and certainly what Matt would talk about, that we would be included. But I can tell you this, and I've said it before, I don't get personal about sports takes. Now, if you swing at me, and especially if it is unprovoked, which basically all the time it's going to be because I don't start stuff here, I finish it. If you start stuff, I'm going to finish it. This is the way that it is, but I'm not going to start it up. Will we have takes that people don't like? Absolutely. Am I going to get personal about it? Am I going to say, because you're being unsuccessful doesn't make you stupid or anything like that? I'm not going to make it personal. It's going to be about the sport. It's going to be about the sport and what's not happening. I.e., I'm not going to be a jackass about it. But I am quite sure that Matt probably thinks some of my takes are incredibly ridiculous, too. So, yeah, right. But you still have to be critical of situations that require you being critical. It's not going to be a pat you on the back type of deal. If you win and you're successful, then it will. JJ, on the other side, we have seen the Pacers playing much better so far, have we not? After the All-Star break, and you see a Tyrese Haliburton that is confident off the dribble and getting everybody else going and has the confidence in himself and his offensive ability too. That's when this team's at its best, and you're going to need that later on tonight against the Denver Nuggets. Gamebridge Fieldhouse tip time, 7 o'clock. Jeremiah Johnson, Pacers TV, other side. You sit tight right there. Chances for you to win, and you can chime in regarding IU-Purdue yesterday as well coming up next. 93.5, 107.5, The Fan.
Danny, every day.
Good. So what's the problem?
I don't know.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Oh, this is a hell of a song right here. Crank it up for me, James. How many people listening right now you think go, yeah, that's a good song?
I'd hope a lot. 'Cause I actually
like the song.
I do like the song.
Ooh. God, what is this, Silver?
Yep.
Wham Bam Shangalang.
Wham Bam Shangalang.
I love this song. 1976. You believe this song, I believe, was a top 15 song from 1976. I agree with you on that. So how were you introduced to this? Help me out.
Honestly, I think it was just some random...
This is not Lamb of God.
No. It was some random, like, YouTube meme or something.
Yeah.
And it was in the background, and I liked the song a lot, so I looked it up and listened to it.
This is yacht rockish. It has yacht rock principles, but is probably known more so for being something called AM Gold back in the day. Awesome. James, well done right there. Hey, shout out to the new luxury Intercontinental Hotel. Not the Intercontinental Championship that used to be held back in the day by Tito Santana. The new luxury Intercontinental Hotel opens in downtown Indy. Have you seen this? Right around the corner. It's like right over here. They have a rooftop bar from what I've heard.
Oh, do they?
We've got to have a show at the rooftop bar. Yeah. The Intercontinental. Brand new. Chris Kramer a little bit earlier. You may want to hear that, Boilermaker fans. Dial it up. 1075thefan.com for the podcast. Luke Basso, IU-Indy, scary moments, no doubt about that. If you've missed a story about their bus burning on the way back from northern Kentucky, it is a major story. It was a frightening experience for all on that bus. Everybody okay? We're going to talk to Luke about how we can all help that program. And we love Paul Casaro, and Luke's a good friend, so we're going to give them a little bit of love coming up here at the bottom of the hour. Mike Burris, my man, too. Luke Basso, bottom of the hour. Stephen Holder, Combine Conversation after 5 on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Pacers Television, he is Jeremiah Johnson, who is with us. I'm going to tell you what, of the back-to-back, I know that the Nuggets got depants the other night against the Lakers, but before that, 9 straight wins. And in terms of back-to-back, whether we're talking about a home date like the Pacers tonight, this is going to be highly difficult.
It will be difficult. You know, Denver had won 9 straight games, although Nikola Jokic was pretty critical of his team after they lost to the Lakers and saying that in that 9-game win streak, they beat a lot of teams that had guys injured and teams that were below 500. And I did check at the time that they beat every team in that 9-game win streak, all of them were below 500. So maybe not as impressive as we thought when you heard they had a 9-game win streak. We'll see if they're angry. They're getting ready to start a 4-game road trip here in Indianapolis. So it'll be a challenge, and T.J. McConnell is questionable. Saw him tweak his ankle towards the end of that game on Sunday. So that'll be something to monitor as we approach tip-off tonight.
So Harden came down on T.J. They both ended up injured in that situation, right?
Well, they did, but it actually was not even connected.
Okay.
And I don't even know. I didn't see Harden really limp off too badly. I'm not sure that he really hurt his ankle. He was maybe frustrated. He was laying down for a little bit. And oddly enough, TJ didn't really step on anyone. He just sort of took a bad step, which can happen in as much basketball as you've played. It looked like he just kind of was a little off balance, and it looked like his right foot just kind of got turned a little bit, and it wasn't even by landing or stepping on anyone else. But it was the same play, and about 2 seconds apart, they both went down. It was a very unusual scene at Gainbridge Fieldhouse.
Luckily for me, I've never had to worry about a landing zone, just kind of a standing zone, because I'm not getting up on any jumpers right here too much. So I'm not really worried about you infiltrating my landing zone, just my standing zone. That's what it's called.
the set shot is your three-point shot.
Exactly right there. JJ is with us. I mentioned this a little bit earlier. We'll get to the lineup and obviously the Nuggets, the matchup later on tonight. But Tyrese Haliburton, to me, that's where I'm going to start because these first two games out of the All-Star break, he has done what he does. He stirs it. He gets everybody else involved while also not backing away from a high level of confidence in getting his own. We have seen that against Memphis. We have seen that last night, yesterday afternoon, if you will, against the Clippers. That's when this team, to me, offensively is at its best.
You have it exactly right. And Tyrese Haliburton knows that the Pacers need him to be active. They need that usage rate to be up. They need him to be aggressive. And as he said after the game yesterday, it's not just putting up a lot of shots, but if it's him attacking the basket. And what we always say is, you get 2 feet in the paint, good things will happen. And that's what Tyrese Haliburton needs to do. He also acknowledged yesterday he needs his three-point attempts to probably be up a little bit higher than they have been this season. So he's definitely aware of all of those things. And he had a really, really good game. That was his first double-double since January 10th. Now, he'd had probably 4 or 5 games where he finished with 9 assists and just shy of the double-double. But he had that in the third quarter, and I didn't even think he was necessarily going to even be needed to go in the fourth quarter, but he did have to go in part maybe because T.J. McConnell left with that ankle injury. And the Clippers had it maybe a little bit too close for comfort. But to have 27 and 12 and really – have that in 3 quarters, that shows you the kind of game and the kind of impact that he had, and I just think he's playing with a lot of confidence right now.
I don't think there's any doubt about that, too. I just think when he plays like that, then the confidence is also transferred to everybody else, and I think we've seen that really across the board. And we're talking about production, which I think is, to this point started by the pace of play that they have. This is all of high-level importance for this team to have the highest amount of success, I think, possible. And as I mentioned, it starts with him doing that.
Yeah, and I'll be watching tonight. Second half of the back-to-back is always a little harder to play as fast as you want to, whether it's on the defensive end to be able to play full court or offensively to get those fast break opportunities. And so we'll see if they have all of the necessary energy to play that way, because Tyrese also understands when the Pacers are at their best, they are getting out and running. Now, at the same time, the teams they're playing, they know that's what the Pacers do well. So you're getting at this point where the Pacers have had this same group together for now 2.5 to 3 seasons, a lot of them. Some of these teams, even the Western Conference teams, they've had a number of opportunities to scout against and to play against and to prepare against. And so they'll try to take that speed game away. And what I'm really looking forward to watching tonight is Tyrese Haliburton's passing skills and Nikola Jokic's passing skills. You've got 2 of the best in the NBA in terms of pinpoint passes. They obviously do it different ways and from different spots on the floor sometimes, but we'll see pass masters tonight at Gainbridge Fieldhouse.
So Jeremiah Johnson of Pacers Television. Again, 7 o'clock is that tip time. 6:30 coverage begins on TV. 6:30 coverage begins here on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. Well, what else has stood out with the beginning, which we knew that this homestand 4 games was welcome, but at the same time it was going to be difficult, especially, really, I want to say all 4 because Toronto's got – they've given the Pacers issues regardless of the level of personnel, so that's also going to be difficult. But what else has stood out besides Haliburton and that reemergence and his assertion offensively that you think really has the Pacers right now pointed in that right direction?
I would say rebounding. Against Memphis, they were even on the glass, and against the Clippers, I think they were plus 14. And at halftime, I had to do a double take before my halftime interview with Obi Toppin, and as I looked up and I saw the Clippers had 0 offensive rebounds in the first half. And Tyrese acknowledged after the game, we all remember the Zubac game when he had the 31 and the 29 and just terrorized the Pacers on the offensive glass. And so it's one thing to say you're going to work on rebounding, but you've got to have all 5 positions either blocking their guy out or going to get it. And even if Miles Turner is in a position where he's trying to block shots, then he's not going to be able to necessarily get those rebounds. So to have a 14 rebound advantage and to win the second chance point number against the Clippers is a big reason they won. And so I'll be watching that, seeing if they can sustain some of these rebounding numbers moving forward. And I've really been – I'll give Aaron Nesmith a lot of credit for this. He's the one guy that really has an ability to get those offensive rebounds, and they like him from that spot, being able to crash. And so with him feeling fully healthy and having no fears, no hesitations with that ankle, they're getting basically, 6 to 8 additional second chance points. And in a close game, that can be the difference. We saw it against Memphis, him crashing, getting Tyrese Haliburton a second three after he missed one. That basically was what Tyrese Haliburton needed to get going. And we saw him early on make an impact against the Clippers doing the same thing. So in Boston, I don't think it's a nickname that Aaron likes, but some people in Boston told me they called him Crash Nesmith. And he said he didn't really like that nickname, but I can see how he got that nickname at one point in time because of his ability to crash the glass.
The other thing you could see is he is now getting back into game shape. That has been a work in progress. And add on to that, there's a cohesion, I feel, now between the roles that you see with Nesmith and Mathurin in mind. We kind of wondered how that dynamic was going to work, and it looks like each right now are incredibly comfortable in their role.
Yeah, they're both going to get playing time, and depending on how the game goes, we'll see who is on the floor, in the crucial moments. Sometimes if you have a big lead, maybe it's Nesmith, and maybe other times you need offense, and it's Bennedict Mathurin, and who knows? Maybe you could have both of them out there, and maybe it's Andrew Nembhard who's not in. I mean, they have what we say is 6 starting level players, and maybe you could even say more than that, but they have 6 starters right now, and only 5 can start, and Bennedict Mathurin is one of those. But think about that Aaron Nesmith with the other 4 players that have been starting the last few games. They started together most of the end of last season, and they started together 15 playoff games. And that's experience that you can't get anywhere else. And so they have sort of that, on-court cohesiveness where they kind of know where each other is going to be. And I do think it is helping Tyrese Haliburton get into the game a little bit more offensively with Nesmith out there instead of Mathurin. When Mathurin's out there, you're the point guard. You want to get him the ball. You want to make sure he gets some touches. Nesmith can kind of get his by just virtue of the ball moving around the perimeter or, like we said, by getting some offensive rebounds. And so maybe it's one more or one less person that needs a shot or needs the ball on the court, and that can then allow Tyrese to get some shots early because his human nature, Tyrese Haliburton's, is to get others involved early. And if you have Siakam and Turner and Mathurin all out there on the court, and Nembhard at times has taken liberty to drive in and get his offense, then the point guard forgets that he has to score as well. So that's another reason the fit seems to be really good. And it helps the second unit. It's less pressure on T.J. McConnell to make offense happen when he's got both Obi Toppin and Bennedict Mathurin on the court, guys that have shown they can be high-level scorers, and they've been really good scorers of late as well.
JJ, the thing that concerns me most, and obviously it starts with Jokic, but it's the situation we've seen against the Pacers, especially the past 2, and that's Miles pulling his opposing number out to where they don't want to be. We saw that with Zubac yesterday. You saw it with Edey, certainly going back to Thursday night when Miles really got started well. But Jokic is different in that capacity. How have they handled it in the past, and what's your expectation if that matchup is something we see predominantly later on tonight against the Nuggets?
Yeah, you're correct that I think Jokic can get out there a little bit better than the last 2 centers the Pacers have played, but I think defensively he still probably is more comfortable guarding someone on the post and being on the perimeter. I suppose I'll be watching a little bit. I mean, you could envision a scenario where maybe he guards Siakam a little bit. I don't really recall when the Pacers played Denver last season, but you could see a situation where maybe Porter Jr. is spending some time on Miles and maybe Jokic is on Siakam. So there could be some cross-matching going on there. The main thing is to make sure that you don't get into foul trouble because that does come to mind that Miles has had and the Pacers have had maybe some foul issues against Jokic. He's not like James Harden or John Morant in terms of the foul baiting, I don't think, but he does get to the free throw line quite a bit, and I think he has caused some of the Pacers' bigs foul troubles over the years. And speaking of troubles, the Nuggets have caused the Pacers issues. Denver has won, I believe, 8 straight games in the series, including 5 straight at Gainbridge Fieldhouse. So it's time to snap a couple of streaks tonight.
Now, then I'm assuming that the matchup we just discussed has not gone well. So honestly, because of that stat, that's all you really had to say. I knew that it was not a favorable number for the Pacers, but yeah, there's no doubt it hasn't gone well if that's the case.
Yeah, and Denver is playing much better basketball. One thing to keep an eye on, they've kind of gone back and forth a little bit with Russell Westbrook in the starting lineup and coming off the bench, and their numbers are a lot better with him in the starting lineup. But the last 2 games he's come off the bench, and it does seem like he's someone who still thinks of himself as a starter. So I'll be interested to see whether they put him back in the starting lineup and how much of the time Westbrook and Jokic are on the floor together. Because if you think about it, you've got the 2 active leaders in triple-doubles on the court together. So that's 2 different guys that have the rebounding, assists, and scoring capabilities. I know Westbrook isn't the player now that he used to be, but I'll be interested to see that fit tonight with the Nuggets.
Jeremiah Johnson, I almost said the wrong thing right there. My bad. Pacers Television or the Andy Moore Automotive Group Hotline. McConnell, what's your expectation? You mentioned a little bit dinged up, may or may not, with what took place yesterday. Quick turnaround, obviously. What's your expectation?
Yeah, and then you play again on Wednesday. So he was in some pain. It looked like he wanted to stay in the game with about 5 to 6 minutes to go. Again, the situation was you almost didn't have to put Tyrese Haliburton back in the game, but then when McConnell was injured, it made the decision very easy for Rick Carlisle, and he wanted to get McConnell to the locker room to get that worked on. And so I don't have a great feeling either way, but sometimes those ankles are something where you feel better in the moment, and the next day it doesn't feel so good. And so, you want to be cautious, and he's been very durable and dependable during his time. And if that's the only injury that you have to speak of, at least of the current injuries, I think you've got depth that you can kind of handle it and make sure he can get that ankle good for the later this week. So still listed as questionable. Don't really know for sure. But on the second half of the back-to-back would be a tough scenario if you're not 100%.
So did you watch IU-Purdue yesterday?
Well, we had it on in the media room when we were having lunch. I listened to the start of it.
I figured you probably didn't see the end. Did you see the second half at all?
Yeah, not really. We were actually at lunch during the start of the second half, and I was sitting with Quinn Buckner, and he had an eye on that television as well. And people in the media room were a little surprised, and I think there were a lot of IU fans in there that were happy with what was happening to start the second half. But at one point I looked at the box score, and it was 28-3 in the second half. And I said, That's like a football score. Like, how is that even happening?
Yeah, well, I mean, it was almost flipped at the end of the first half with Purdue rolling and getting out to, a 12-point lead or whatever at the half. And then, there's no doubt the script was flipped in the second with IU. I didn't know if you saw the Leo first dust-up right there.
No, I didn't see that.
I was going to ask you whether or not something was a nut shot, but if you don't have the working knowledge, then unfortunately I can't ask you. Everybody's mad at me because I said play on. So
was that in the beginning of the game?
Yeah. I mean, literally.
Yeah, well, I was in the
people
car.
Just sat down, I think.
Yeah, but then I was surprised, and I was listening to Eric and Don, and I was surprised they took the foul away completely. I didn't know they could even do that.
I didn't know they could do that either. I had said play on, and then everybody, oh my God, there you go. So, yeah. Said, believe me, by now I'm 55. I know the difference between an intentional nut shot and not. So I do. I'm an expert in that category. Believe me.
So it sounds like the officials got it right, according to you.
Oh, yeah, they got it right, according to me.
All right.
Yeah, but according to everybody else, I'm wrong. Oh, not everybody else. I should say Boilermaker fans say I'm wrong, and IU fans haven't chimed in, so that probably means they believe I'm wrong, too.
I did read Matt Painter's comments, and it sounded like he didn't have a problem with it not being a flagrant. So I'll trust Matt Painter.
And then Kaufman-Wren got one for an elbow, and everybody was mad about that. And I just had to remind people that any elbow close to or certainly making contact with an opposing player's dome is always going to get tagged with a flagrant. It's going to get an upgrade no matter what. If it's a common foul, it's always going to happen that way.
Yeah, that's tough, and we even see that in the NBA sometimes. I mean, when you're a defender, sometimes your best scenario is to put your – even though no one will do it on purpose, but you can put your head at someone's elbow and you're probably going to get something. I feel like you do see that, though, more in college than the NBA, but you're right, they always call that.
Yeah, I don't know how to get around it. It's just the way that we are. I'd said, like, back in the 80s, that had been a foul on Galloway's chin or head or something, but now it's flagrant.
Exactly.
Upgraded from a common foul. All right, 6:30, you guys are underway officially later on tonight, correct?
That is correct.
I'm going. I want to hear the dialogue. I've not seen Jokic up close, so I kind of want to hear how he orchestrates, see how he orchestrates. So I'm actually going tonight.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be a fun night. I think the crowd will be good, and he's worth the price of admission for sure. So it should be a good time, and we look forward to seeing you at Gainbridge Fieldhouse, John.
Now, you may see me with a cocktail, too, so be ready. I've got to loosen up a little bit.
Sounds good.
I think you've seen that before. Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, my brother. Appreciate it. See you then.
All right. Take care.
It's Jeremiah Johnson, Pacers TV on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. I'm just reminded, too, this kind of went off the radar a little bit. It's been sold out for a while. Old National Center, James, later on tonight. We did give away a pair of tickets for that. Omaha Productions presents Night of Champions. The 2006 Indianapolis Colts. I still like it better. If you guys remember, once upon a time, I was the host of a concert over there. And it said, on the marquee out in front of the Old National Center, it said, Limp Bizkit and JMV 1070.
You co-headline with Limp Bizkit.
I was right there, me and Fred Durst together and Wes Borland. Actually, I don't know if you knew this or not, but Tony Donahue and I went to lunch at Weber Grill with Fred Durst the day of that. Yeah.
What was he like?
He was awesome.
Really?
Absolutely awesome, dude.
Interesting.
Durst was awesome. And you'd heard all these stories about how lacking of awesome that he was, and he was fun as hell.
Good to know.
It was me and Tony and Fred Durst and some winners. But, yeah, JMV and Limp Bizkit. Once upon a time there.
Did you take a photo of
I think there might have been a JMV and Whitesnake, too. I did two of them.
Really?
I did Whitesnake back in the day, and I did Limp Bizkit.
Well, that's a photo right there.
Yeah, pretty awesome right there. Night of Champions. Jim Nantz will be the moderator later on tonight of CBS, and that is going down over at the Murat Old National Center. If you are going, enjoy it. It will be a blast. And don't give me hell. Oh, it's old. And yeah, so stupid. You better embrace it. Because you never know how long it's going to be before not only you get near that point, but you lose a little bit of relevance in the process, at least of a consistently higher level winning organization. Embrace that always. That's later on tonight, the Old National Center, the Murat. Quick break, we'll come back. Man, it's made TMZ now. The bus fire with the IU-Indy squad was absolutely frightening. And I kind of wanted to know how we all could help because we're really good at that. We all come together, being from here as we are. Now, Luke Basso is the director of athletics at IU-Indy. Is going to join us next. He will tell us about the situation, again, how scary that it was, and how we can help as well. A little over 30 minutes away, Stephen Holder, Combine Conversation. Lou Anarumo, the new defensive coordinator of the Colts, on this show coming up in the 5 o'clock hour tomorrow. I will be live at the NFL Combine, again, coming up tomorrow. Quick break. We'll come back with you next. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
by Odeon. It's illegal in 9 countries.
It's quite pungent. It stings the nostrils.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Yeah, I mentioned Night of Champions tonight at Mural National Center. Celebrating the Super Bowl 41 season of the Colts. Should be fun. There's a great Durst story to tell you from Officer Craig, who shared that with me a moment ago. Stephen Holder, NFL Combine, top of the hour. He will join us. We're going to be live our only day at the Combine. In fact, is coming up tomorrow. Lou Anarumo is the new defensive coordinator of the Colts, and he will join us, I believe, in the 5 o'clock hour. Hey, by the way, Connor's Pub, Broad Ripple, that is a tavern tour stop with Brent Halverson and Romy and Heaven Hill Distillery. That's on Thursday. And back with you, and hopefully with some Combine guests at Tom's Watch Bar downtown, again, coming up on Friday. So a couple of opportunities for you to come out and join us Thursday and Friday. Connor's Pub and Broad Ripple for a tavern tour stop. Heaven Hill Distillery, Brent Halverson, our guy Jim Romanek. And then again on Friday, Tom's Watch Bar. And we're going to try to work in some representation from the NFL Combine coming up on Friday. Meantime, on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline right now. He's a friend of the show. He's the director of athletics at IU-Indy. And yesterday was frightening beyond belief, without a doubt. It had nothing to do with the on-the-floor performance of the basketball Jaguars. Luke Basso joins us now. Everybody is okay, and some of those vivid photos were about as frightening as anybody could imagine of a completely burned out on the side of the road bus.
Yeah, John, thanks for having us. Man, even just you talking about it just still gives me chills. We were on a fan bus about an hour and 15 minutes ahead of Paul and the team, and that phone call from Paul, something I'll never forget. He was calling me as he was walking away from the bus that was burning down, and let us know that all the players and everybody in the travel party was safe. And then he followed it up with some of the pictures seen publicly, some of you haven't, but definitely a reminder that there's a lot more important things in this world than basketball games. But most importantly, everybody's safe and everything we lost is replaceable.
Luke Basso is with us. There's no doubt about that. Have they found a cause for the fire?
Not yet. We're letting the company work through that, and it was mechanical issues of some sort. But I tell you, John, something that probably is going to get lost in this story. For whatever reason, the bus blew a tire, and one of our assistant coaches got off the bus with the bus driver and immediately saw the flames and saw everything happen, and he rushed back on the bus to tell everybody to get off the bus. Don't grab your stuff, get off as quickly as possible. And talking to the guys, they probably don't realize how quickly it went up, but they were as soon as they got off the bus, Paul and the coaches got them away, and 5 minutes later, that bus was just totally engulfed in flames. So, Keith Otto, one of our assistants, was, he hates that I'm telling people this story, but, he did an amazing job getting our guys and getting the travel party off the bus.
My goodness, Luke, you got to be kidding me. Now, this all happened, was this on I-74?
It was closer to 275, but
okay.
Right kind of that part leaving Ohio coming into Indiana.
My goodness. And did you mention it took about 5 minutes for it to be totally in flames, that situation?
Yeah. I mean, there was a picture today. I mean, first of all, the Lawrenceburg community, NKU, the public safety group, we're so great to our team. There was a local school bus driver down there who heard about a basketball or a bus stopped on the side of the road, and she called her superintendent and said, "Hey, can I go pick up these guys?" And she went and picked up the team, but she was filming some of the pictures, and I mean, a video I saw today, just the entire bus engulfed in flames. Yeah, it happened very quickly, and Paul and the coaching staff were smart enough to get our guys about a mile up the road. But I met the guys on campus at 8:20 last night, and just kind of tell you about where their mindset was. They went to a pizza place for a couple hours, but when Paul and I met and talked, he still had soot and smoke on his hands, on his clothes. He had to help the bus driver to make sure he didn't get back on the bus. And, these are, unfortunately it's something that, happened, but fortunately nobody was hurt. And everybody now has a story to tell.
Again, the fire is frightening enough to think about. Did the bus explode?
It kind of depends how you talk to. Obviously there were tires, rubber, different things like that. I think there was, there were explosions with it. Obviously, I think we've all seen the final pictures where it's just a skeleton of the bus, but it definitely it probably had some minor explosions in it.
You were right. And Luke Basso joins us, the director of athletics for IU-Indy. We're going to talk about how we can all help that situation out, not just with the next game in mind, but in the future in mind here in just a second with Luke. But again, this stuff doesn't matter. It's, everybody's out safe and okay from that. But how much was lost of the possessions, the belongings of the team in that fire?
Yeah, we lost a set of jerseys. We lost shoes. Anything under the bus was completely damaged. By the time they were telling guys to get off the bus. Guys left a lot of their personal stuff at the top of the bus, computers, bags. A couple of guys left their cell phones, chargers, all those different things that, somebody tells you to get off something, don't grab things, and that's what they did. That was the right thing to do to get people off. I think we've all been on these 52-seaters before, and, every second in this situation counted. So, there was a good amount of stuff lost from the team and the travel party, our athletic trainers, our managers, those type of things as well.
And again, all this stuff is replaceable belongings, but I can't imagine how shocking that it is. Was there a large amount of time before help got to them? I'm just kind of curious how all that went down initially. Once, your assistant and the bus driver got off and found out that it was on fire to when it was completely engulfed in flames.
Yeah, and talking to everybody, depending how you want to put it, time stood still or time moved really fast. But by the time Paul called me, which was right when they got everybody off the bus, to walking away, there was already first responders getting there. So it went, it went very quickly for all those folks to get there and start helping everybody and getting the water to it. But it was a quick response by the troopers and everybody else involved in that.
That's Luke Basso is the director of athletics for IU-Indy, talking about yesterday, which was traumatic beyond belief, I assume. I also wanted to mention how we can help, how people can help, because a lot of people have reached out to me. A lot of people kind of want to know how they can get involved in this. And I'm sure, again, this is still fresh in everybody's memory right here. It just happened late yesterday. But how can folks get involved?
Yeah. Thanks, John. Thanks for asking. First of all, we're lucky to work for a great university who, from the moment I started calling everybody yesterday, said, we'll do whatever we can to get this right. Paul and I both being from Indianapolis, we obviously get a lot of phone calls, a lot of local connections. And the first thing you can do is we want to pack the jungle on Thursday night, right? We know after this event, we know there's a lot more important things for basketball, but we're going to have 2.5 hours on Thursday night starting at 6:30 to give our guys an escape from this dramatic week. So, we'd love to see you guys down in the jungle. You can get tickets at iuindyjags.com/tickets. If you can't come to the game and you want to give, we have our Jag Athletic Fund directly on our website to do that. But I would tell you, I think the best way to support our guys right now is to get to this game Thursday and show how much the community supports them, supports us. You've heard me say it, John, right? We're the public university inside Indianapolis, and nobody supports sports better than this city, and we want people to see here, be a part of that Thursday night.
Yeah, Thursday night, 6:30 is that tip time with Robert Morris. I think I saw some of the first pictures. Obviously, one of the I know Paul really well. I know you really well. Mike Burris, I grew up with the assistant coach there, and I was seeing some of those pictures. It was shocking, man. I can't imagine just being as close to it as they were, and certainly with the situation as you're having to deal with it, because when you first saw those initial photos, it was a shock to the system. It truly was.
Yeah, I mean, I would tell you, I mean, I'm close with all our coaches, and when I picked up the phone, I instantly knew something was wrong, and just hearing Paul's voice and hearing some of the commotion, I was stuck on a bus. Right, and there was no way to help at that point. And when I started seeing the pictures, my heart sunk. I was just so happy and thankful that they were able to get the players, the coaches, the athletic trainers, the managers off the bus. I mean, God was on our side, right? We were incredibly blessed and lucky yesterday that we escaped that with no injuries and only personal items that can be replaced.
So Luke Basso is with us, so we want to get everybody to the game coming up on Thursday. That tip time versus Robert Morris is 6:30, right?
Yes, sir, 6:30.
Hey, if there's anything else that you need done, you need a little help orchestrating, just let us know. Let me know. I'm sure everybody here would be glad, too. And I know I would. So, yeah, you let me know if you need anything else, and we'll be right there. Again, that was shocking. That's something I won't soon forget, even just seeing the pictures of it.
Yeah, we appreciate it, John. And thanks to Adidas, who's already stepped up to help us. Some of our other partners have already stepped up to help us. And look, this community and this group have been incredibly helpful. But I also have to thank Northern Kentucky and their AD and coach. I mean, they from the moment they found out, they were calling me, they called Paul, they offered to do anything. And, we may be rivals on the court, but off of it in the mid-major level, all these institutions are supportive of each other. And, it was nice to see the outpouring support from them as well. And, Paul and I and everybody else and, your Greene County native Burris with you, we're all incredibly thankful that people have reached out and have been supportive so far. And, it's just a good reminder that while sports is our job, there's a lot more important things in life.
Yeah. So, wow, that's something, Luke. I mean, it really is. Again, it is 6:30 on Thursday against Robert Morris. Again, we'd love to see everybody out there for that. And if you guys need anything else from me, please don't hesitate to ask, and we'll do whatever we can to help here.
Will do, John. I appreciate you having us on to talk about it.
Yep. Stay in touch with me. Keep me updated, okay, buddy?
Will do. Thanks, John.
It's Luke Basso right there, Director of Athletics for IU-Indy. And I know this story is now making its national rounds. I saw that via TMZ Sports. But if you've not been privy to the photos of the burned-out bus, wow. And the good fortune of the assistant coach and the bus driver to get off and to notice that the bus was on fire. And then to get everybody off of it. Wow. So, again, Thursday, 6:30. If you can make that, pack the place, that would be great. And it doesn't matter who they play. It's Robert Morris, the competition. But if they need any help, we shall help, because that's exactly what we do here. And I don't just mean here where I sit, but what we do in general around here. Luke Basso, the podcast at 1075thefan.com. Quick break. We shall return. Stephen Holder, top of the hour. Our one and only day at the NFL Combine at the Convention Center is coming up tomorrow. Now, I know the other shows are going to be here all week, or there, I should say, all week. I am there tomorrow. And then on the road, Connor's Pub, Broad Ripple, Tavern Tour stop with Heaven Hill Distillery and Brent Halverson on Thursday. Tom's Watch Bar downtown on Friday. So a very busy week. Lou Anarumo is the new defensive coordinator. He joins us coming up on tomorrow's show. In fact, in the 5 o'clock hour. That's where we're going to find Stephen Holder coming up at the top of the hour. More Purdue IU conversation. We'll get to some calls at 239-1070 if you so desire. Pacers and Nuggets. Back-to-back situation for the Pacers against Nikola Jokic and the Nuggets later on tonight. That tips at 7. Coverage begins here on The Fan at 6:30. The AAA Membership Lounge via YouTube Live. Check it out today. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
He's not the Messiah. He's a very naughty boy. Now go away.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
I got something for you right now. Anybody want it? $25 gift card cluster truck, everybody. Our guy Evan Sherrill's going to be really happy about that. I wonder if Evan's coming in tomorrow. We need more salmon. $25 gift card right now. Number 9 at 239-1070. What do you think? Salmon?
Have him run by the combine. I'm sure that'd be great.
Well, he can leave it here. I'll slide back by to get it.
That's
right?
fair, yeah.
Number 9 at 239-1070 will receive a $25 gift card courtesy of Evan and our friends at Cluster Truck. The vivid, the compelling description of the bus fire. IU-Indy in their ball bus on the way back from northern Kentucky, actually on 275, from what Director of Athletics Luke Basso just explained. If you missed any of it, podcast 1075thefan.com. And again, Robert Morris, 6:30 coming up on Thursday. We would love to see you pack the house. And if anybody has any other ideas on how we can help, I am completely down with it. Let me know. We are big fans of Luke, Paul Casaro, their head coach, Mike Burris, who is a Greene County, Eastern Greene, Owensburg legend, is an assistant coach. So if you have any ideas on how we can help otherwise, then let's put something together and you can orchestrate to me. But compelling to say the least, frightening without a doubt. Luke Basso's podcast, 1075thefan.com. I mentioned Stephen Holder coming up at the top of the hour. 239-1070 is the number. I think Brent is on hold. Brent, welcome to the show. How are you?
Good, JMV. How are you doing?
Brent, I'm outstanding. Thank you for asking.
Hey, do you remember the, I don't know if you remember me, the 8'3" gargoyles with a 3.7 speed?
Are you kidding me? This is you?
It's me. It's me, baby.
Holy crap.
So, yeah.
Brent, how long has it been?
I don't know. Maybe a year or so, or 2 years or whatever.
A year? Try about 5, brother.
No,
seriously.
Has it been that long?
Yes, it's been that long.
Oh,
easily 5. Well, Tony Donahue, was he not the producer, or was Kyle the producer when you did that?
I don't remember. I don't remember.
All right, refresh. Okay, some others may not remember too. Refresh everybody's memory, Brent, about who you are and your voice and why you're so significant with the show when it's past.
Well, I mean, I can't replay my
your rant,
my tape that I did on your show, but I know that you it was like one of your advertisements.
No, it was a re-entry. We call it a re-entry to the show. Now, Brent, I'm going to ask you to do something right now. Are you prepared? It may not be the same because a lot of time has passed. But can you give us something similar to describe the Colts, the draft, and how you're putting together a team?
That's why I'm here today, JMV.
All right, I'm going to lean back. I'm going to let you take it away.
Thank you, sir. And this is Brent on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline, so I need time. So, anyways, I have told Indianapolis many times that I'm sick of losing, and I know you guys are too. It's time for me to be hired into the Colts. I need to make the decisions as far as the draft goes. My title I want is Quality Control Management of Football Operations. That means I'm overseeing, scouting, the players, everything.
It seems reasonable, yes.
My reference is Dane Fife.
Dane Fife. You gotcha.
Yeah, that's a pretty reputable reference, wouldn't you say?
He's a good guy, no question.
He's a good guy. Anyways, I'm here to talk about the Colts, obviously. Chris Ballard is, he's a nice guy and everything, and, if I were hired on, I'd keep him on staff. I don't want him to lose his job or whatever the case may be. But JMV, what do the Colts need? The obvious question, the first thing that we need. What do we need?
Well, you tell me I got to go to a break here at the top of the hour. What type of player are you looking for? Brent, describe it.
Well, what we need is a franchise quarterback, don't you think?
Oh, I thought you were going to describe it like you did back in the day. I was looking for that type of juice.
That'll come later on in the call.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'm going to have to go to a break here, so I'm going to have to put you back on hold. But here's what I want you to do. I want you to piece together something where we can go back in history, because that was one of the greatest calls in the history of this show.
I want to talk about the move that we need to make.
Put him on hold right here. We have got to stir the echoes of one of the greatest calls of all time. By the way, see if you can utilize that. Find that as a re-entry, too, as we come back. Stephen Holder on the other side. This is Brent. It has been a good 5 years since that amazing rant of Brent. Get to that and a lot more, 5 o'clock hour. Don't go anywhere. It's 93.5, 107. You wouldn't want to go anywhere. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
The Ride with JMV.
My vision is to take this team as the first franchise to the Saturn Football League and play against 8-foot gargoyles that run 3.8 speed.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
That is Brent right there, everybody. That has to be 5 years ago. Brent is on hold. Brent, piece together something incredibly special because we can't have a Caddyshack 2 type of sequel here. All right? Get ready. We'll come back to Brent in just a second. By the way, Tony East just hit this up on the social media platform X. TJ McConnell listed as questionable tonight against the Nuggets. Second of a back-to-back, by the way. He is not on the floor during what is his usual time of warm-ups. Two-way contract guard Ray J. Dennis, however, is. I don't know if that means anything, but we'll follow it. Nuggets Pacers tonight. That tips at 7. 6:30 your coverage begins on The Fan. IU-Indy Director of Athletics and the compelling description of the bus fire with his men's basketball team yesterday on the way back from northern Kentucky and how you can help. A little bit earlier to Jeremiah Johnson, Pacers television, and Chris Kramer, very emotional former Boilermaker guard regarding the IU win over Purdue yesterday. Podcast with each 1075thefan.com. Meantime, with the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline, you've got the general manager, you've got the head coach with the media coming up tomorrow at the NFL Combine. You got me and the new defensive coordinator, and you got Stephen Holder picking up his credential right now at the Convention Center, who joins us on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Hello, Stephen. How are you?
I'm doing well. I actually thought you might have been down here, so I said, well, let me poke my head in there since I was there, but I guess I missed you by a day.
Yep. Tomorrow I will be there for my one and only day. Just me and Lou Anarumo hanging out in the 5 o'clock hour tomorrow. How about that?
Well, he seems like a decent guy, so I think it'll go well.
Yeah. So give me this.
Good things.
Couple of questions you're thinking about asking tomorrow, because at different times you're going to have the general manager, you're going to have the head coach, and I'm sure a lot of thoughts going through your mind about how this offseason, this free agency period, and then ultimately the draft is going to look.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think the first thing is I would love to get some sense of how aggressive they'll be in the next few weeks in free agency. I do think that if you believe and take Chris Ballard at his word, he certainly indicated that they are going to be more aggressive. But what does that look like? What are we talking about? What positions are the priorities? I mean, he's not going to answer those questions directly, but I do think that we can pick up clues, the context clues and the various indicators that might give us some sense of how the next few weeks might go. So that's the first thing. And then I think that more specifically, what is the plan at quarterback? I mean, we know the grander plan, the overarching plan, is to have Anthony Richardson go out there and hopefully, they hope, make some pretty big gains this season. He has to. It's the only way they can get where they want to go. But for now, in the short term, the goal, I guess, would be to add to that room, that quarterback room. What are we talking about? Are we talking about a veteran? Are we talking about a young veteran, an up-and-coming guy, someone who flamed out somewhere else and is on a second chance? What does that look like, and how aggressive are they talking about being at that position? Because I think that tells us two things. That tells us it narrows the pool a little bit, but more specifically, it might say something about their confidence level in Anthony Richardson. I think there will be a direct impression that we can take from the kind of quarterback move they make. I think it will reflect in some fashion, good or bad, on Anthony Richardson.
And that's something, obviously, I'll have opinions on that. So what's your expectation on how they handle that? Is it going to be, a veteran guy that is opposites, as we have seen of Richardson, or is it going to be somebody that's veteran that is very similar in that capacity, which, again, not very plentiful, but just curious about that? Or is it going to be, a drafted player, somebody young, somebody unproven? How do you think they approach this?
Yeah, I mean, I expect it to be, sort of a a mid-tier kind of guy. And I think, who are the candidates? The likely suspects. I mean, I think Justin Fields is in that realm. Depending on what happens with Pittsburgh there with him. I've heard Andy Dalton's name has been thrown out there. I could see that. I don't think they're going to go for I'm trying to think of an example, the Kirk Cousins types, like if he gets moved, for example, right? I mean, he's got the injury also, so that's a whole other story. My point is, I don't think it's going to be something in that realm. Just my personal expectation. I don't have any indication of it because they haven't given one, but I'm giving you what my, what I gleaned just from knowing the personnel involved in making the decision and knowing what's out there. And I think that's what we're talking about. That's what I think. So we'll see. And then how you digest that as a fan, I think is up to the beholder, right? The eye of the beholder. Is that something that gives you any kind of comfort, or is that something that says to you, well, they're overconfident in Richardson? I mean, all that depends on where you stand on the different parties. But that's what I expect personally.
It's Stephen Holder of ESPN, ESPN.com. The NFL Combine, again, live tomorrow, is going to be Radio Row, our location once again. I'd mentioned Lou Anarumo, their new defensive coordinator, will join us. Personnel-wise, how much of a changeover do you expect, and what is the hard target area do you think they're really going to put a lot of significant thought into upgrading? And I guess significant thought means significant payroll into upgrading.
Yeah. Well, I would like it to be the secondary. I mean, this is maybe me talking, but I would like it to be the secondary, and here's why. Chris Ballard has taken an extremely passive approach to his personnel decisions in the secondary. I mean, the only guy that's made any money back there has been Kenny Moore. Who else has gotten paid? Name one guy they spent money on in the secondary. You can't name one. And I think that's a mistake. Or at least I think it deserves some more scrutiny. The fact of the matter is, it's not the only reason, but the reality is they gave up one of the highest completion percentages in the NFL. Some of that was the scheme, and some of that was the pass rush not always getting home. There were other factors, right? But it's not like we can just ignore the personnel in the secondary. I mean, we can talk about some of these guys and the gains that they have made, the Nick Crosses of the world. That's true, right? Stepping up and certainly growing and progressing. That is true. But ultimately, what you don't have back there is significant difference makers. And I think maybe it's time that changed. I really do. So that's where if it were me, and it's not, I don't have the purse string, but if it were me, that's where I would start. And I think that's where they should start. And I would say this, with the new defensive coordinator, Lou Anarumo, what you're going to get there is a new set of eyes. And you also, as per usual, what you get when you hire a new coordinator is you oftentimes give that coordinator some leeway in terms of the personnel, because you have to set them up for some success. You can't just say, hey, just roll the ball out there and, hey, just go get them, big guy. Right? I mean, you got to set them up for some success. And I do know just from his time in Cincinnati, it appears at least that Lou Anarumo puts a lot of emphasis on the personnel in the secondary. So that's where I would start. And I do think there will be some attention paid to that area.
Hey, Stephen,
also, I would just add one other thing. I think we're probably looking at an addition at linebacker as well. I don't know how that works and what type of player per se, but I think that's a position where you could use a free agent pickup there, and it shouldn't cost you a tremendous amount of money, because that's a position where the salaries they tend to be reasonable, and you can find quality starters for decent money. So I would look at linebacker as well.
Stephen, I'm curious about this too, because we saw where the salary cap is going to be, which I think was elevated. That was reported last week to a higher level than what we thought. However, the Colts do have some opportunities to jettison some payroll in a fashion in which we simply put have not seen during this particular era, do you think that they'll utilize, that particular tact again with veterans that we simply put have not seen here in the past recently?
Well, I think the odds are a little higher. I'm not saying I'm predicting it, but I think the odds are higher, and here's why. Because you have a little bit of a desperate situation. Desperate's the wrong word, but an urgent situation, okay? They're on the clock, right? I mean, it's very clear. They're on the clock, they being the leadership of this team, okay? They very clearly are on the clock. Jim Irsay didn't say it, but he basically said it in his statement. And I do hope that we hear from him in the next month or so, by the way, at the owners' meetings. So I'm hopeful for that. I think there's a chance for that, in fact. So anyway, but we'll ask him personally, hopefully. But anyhow, for now,
you think there's hey, by the way, I'm sorry to interrupt. Do you think there's a chance because that's something you've asked and been told, or just because?
No.
Okay.
I think the situation.
I got you.
The situation creates the possibility, because that's why I say an urgent situation. I retract the word desperate. I don't think that's the right word, but I do think an urgent situation is fair. I think that's what they're in. And so what I think has to happen is they have to consider kind of getting out of their shell, the box that they have been in, that frankly, under Chris Ballard, they've been in that box because there are certain methods that he just doesn't agree with, right? And that's one of them. He doesn't agree with taking on dead money. They've avoided that like the plague. So for many, many reasons, philosophically, he has avoided going the route that you're talking about. I still think he'll largely avoid it. All I'm saying is that they're in a situation right now where they got to have some results. So we'll see if that changes things from a philosophical perspective. It could, is all I'm saying. It could.
Yeah, I kind of wonder. I kind of wonder if you're doing things differently. I think that is one of those things that people kind of expect you may end up doing differently. And you look at, the right side of the offensive line, you kind of wonder where that's going to be, starting with the center and moving on over to Braden Smith, because there's a great deal of unknown going on there.
That's an underreported story.
Yeah.
Okay. We're not talking enough about that. And I know it's not fun. And, offensive line talk doesn't drive, radio per se, but that is going to be an important topic. Look, since Chris Ballard's hire, really since his second year, I would say since the first year of under Frank Reich, this could be the most offensive line turnover you've seen in this town. You think about that. Okay, they have had largely stability every year. They've maybe turned over one spot, in an occasional year, and then they've had the rest of it has remained largely the same. You could have 3 spots turnover, 3 out of the 5. Okay, I mean, we have not seen that in about 7 years. Okay, so this is going to be, I think, a very big storyline to watch. Because that directly impacts the quarterback, right? That's going to impact their offensive success. I mean, it touches everything. So it is an underreported story for sure, and there's going to be a lot of dominoes falling there, I anticipate.
So Stephen Holder of ESPN, ESPN.com. He's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group Hotline with us. Again, Lou Anarumos going to join us on the show this window in the 5 o'clock hour. Coming up tomorrow. All right. Anything else compel you as far as, meeting with Chris Ballard, meeting with Shane Steichen tomorrow? Really anything else across the board in the 2025 NFL Combine?
Well, I'd like to hear their thoughts, or at least Chris Ballard's thoughts on this draft. It is, I guess, do the strengths line up with the needs? That is always something that you're hoping for. I think there's some potential for that. I mean, there's a strong tight end class. That's a good thing. You've got some defensive backs up high that are worthy of looking at. So I wonder if there's any advantage there for them specifically. They're not right now, at least, looking for a quarterback. Not early in the draft, at least. They are. I think they're decent on the defensive line. They're pretty good. That doesn't mean they shouldn't draft somebody. Grover Stewart and DeForest Buckner are over 30 years old. So they've got to be thinking about the interior of that defensive line. But anyhow, the point is, I am curious whether they agree that the strengths of this draft line up with their specific needs, because that's where you want to be. If you need a quarterback, you need it to be a strong quarterback year, for example, right? And it's not this year for those teams that do need one. So that's unfortunate for them. So let's see. Let's see how they feel about that. And just, when it comes to free agency and even the draft, the other thing that I think will be interesting, I haven't asked this question, but it's another philosophy thing for Chris Ballard. They're big on character. I'm big on character, right? I don't want my daughter to bring home, some jerk, when she gets to that age, right? So we're all big on character. Yeah. However, this is football, and I do think that there is room to bend the rules a little bit, bend their rules. They're your rules. You can break your own rules, right? I'm not saying bring in felons. I'm not saying you should do that. I am saying, though, that maybe you could have a little bit of a softer approach to that particular principle. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, maybe they need a badass or two. You know what I mean? A guy who maybe isn't a rule follower all the time. I don't know. Maybe this is cliche, and maybe I'm just reaching here. I don't know. That's possible. But they have been so rigid on that, and I get it, and I don't necessarily think it's terrible, but I do think it has cost them some players too. So I don't know. It's something to think about. It is something to think about. That's all I'm saying.
So Stephen,
I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
No, I don't mind. I don't mind it. I just want. At this point, I don't care who it is, as long as you can compete for a division that has been, even over this span since 2014, so incredibly winnable, and you're in such an incredible rut. To me, at the top of the list is Chris Ballard really going to change, or something that he has been noted for is a great deal of lip service. How much is what we heard back in January is lip service?
Sure, and the beauty of it is we're going to know I think in maybe the next 2 weeks or so, if you think about what is coming down the pike. So you have, the free agent conversations are going to begin. They really begin this week, but they truly, in essence, legally in the legal tampering period. What are we, about 2 weeks out, 3 weeks out? I can't recall, but right. I think we're about 2.5 weeks out. So, we're gonna know soon. We're gonna know very soon. That's the thing. I am not saying that you've got to go out there and back up a Brinks truck for every guy on the market. I'm not saying that, but I am saying that if his approach is changing, it'll be obvious. Is what I'm saying. And so there won't be any question about lip service or anything like that. It's going to be obvious, right? It's going to be obvious if he's actually come around on this particular issue.
Are you going to take in the Night of Champions event over at the Mirage with the Colts tonight?
I was going to try to make it. I cannot make it, but I am interested to see if anything interesting comes out of that. Yeah, it was also like it's a reunion, but it's the 19th anniversary. Am I right about that? Not the 20th.
I think so. Yeah.
What year was it? Was it 2006?
2006.
Yeah, so it's really the 18th anniversary, which I thought is weird, but I don't know. I'm like, why are we doing it here? I when I first sent it out, I was like, oh man, it must be the 20th anniversary. And then I thought about it, like, wait a minute, I'm bad at math, but not that bad.
I think it's interesting that they all get together and do that now, and with Omaha Productions backing it, and Jim Nansen here is the moderator. And again, it's been such a long time since that level of success. And it's always good to reconnect with that, because I can't get enough of the conversation, to be honest, because it was such a spectacular time, and it's been less than spectacular around here the past 10 or so years. Much less than 10, but not 10, but you know what I mean. The handful of years in the past,
most of the last 7 or 8 have been, pretty
forgettable.
Pretty mundane. Yeah. And I think that is unfortunate. And it does get old very quickly. There's no doubt about that. It gets old pretty quick. And I think a lot of people are at that place. So the good thing is that they know it. Okay. And I think their owners at that place. So, you got to do what you got to do or get off the pot, I think.
I wonder if the owner's going to be there tonight. I would assume so, right?
I wondered. I don't know. Hasn't made too many public appearances lately. So the next one he makes would be a big deal.
Completely agree.
Yeah.
Now you got me kind of thinking when that is going to be, not only just being out, but being heard.
So I don't know if I'm supposed to say this, but I think I referenced it earlier in the conversation, but it has not been ruled out that we will hear from him at the NFL owners meetings, which are about 1 month away. So just keep that in the back of your head.
Yeah.
You didn't hear that from me, but that might be the case. We'll see.
All right.
TBD. But there's a chance. I was told there's a chance.
We will follow that, and we'll see you down there coming up tomorrow.
Yeah, sounds good, brother.
All right, Stephen, appreciate you.
All right, take care.
Stephen Holder on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Lou Anarumo, the defensive coordinator, brand new to the set, joins us coming up tomorrow in the 5 o'clock hour. How many of you are attending tonight's event, by the way? I believe it is sold out. We gave away a pair here. But that is the Omaha Productions, which is the Mannings, Night of Champions, and the Colts Super Bowl 41 championship team and moderator Jim Nance over at the Miral National Center coming up later on tonight. So you got that. And again, that brings back spectacular memories. And then Brent. We'll see if Brent puts together, it has to be 5 years. Maybe it's not been as long as I think. Do you have a timetable for it?
I will say, according to this screen, Kyle was the one that uploaded it.
Okay.
So I'm not sure what that says about the exact time frame, but
so Kyle's been gone for 2.
Yep, 2
right?
years. Yep.
So Kyle was with me for 2?
I'm not sure how long Kyle was there.
I'm thinking it's been about, it has to have been 4 or 5 years. Because people have asked, every time that plays, people say, wait a minute, now what's that from? And I hadn't heard from Brent. This is like the first time we've heard from Brent. We're going to see if we can't stir the echoes on one of the greatest calls ever that we, in fact, use as a re-entry here. With Brent, that's your chance to win some stuff, too. I believe we got some Anything Goes coming up after 6 as well. Pacers at home tonight versus the Nuggets. That's also the big story here in town. We shall get to that coming up in just a minute as well. At the Combine tomorrow, on the road Thursday and Friday. Full explanations regarding both coming up next. Don't go anywhere if you want to join the show. 239-1070. We would love to have you. We've got IU-Purdue reaction Monday as well. If you want to go back to yesterday and IU's win at home versus the Boilermakers. Purdue's 4-game losing streak and what Matt Painter had to say after the game last night. Yesterday afternoon. We got you covered on that as well. 239-1070. That and more coming up next. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Stephen Holder, Luke Basso, Director of Athletics for IU-Indy, Jeremiah Johnson, Pacers TV, Chris Kramer, former Boilermaker guard, all on the show today. Podcast with everybody, 1075thefan.com. Am I allowed to say? I just heard from Denary. Am I allowed? I don't know. Am I allowed? What do you think? Text him and make sure that
let me text him.
Ask him and make sure he feels comfortable with that. I don't want to. I don't want to be I don't want to be that dude. Just let me know. Pacers Nuggets coming up later on tonight. I mentioned, too, tomorrow at the Combine, Lou Anarumo is the new defensive coordinator of the Colts. He will join us in the 5 o'clock hour tomorrow, Thursday, and Friday. Road shows at Connor's Pub in Broad Ripple with Heaven Hill Distillery and Brent Halverson. I do have some news, by the way. So Brent has what we call Terrapin Station. It's a place of his down in Nashville, near Nashville in Brown County. At some point, we're going to have an incredible show and blowout party there, from what I've heard. The other thing is I was with Matt Goins yesterday down at IU with Purdue and IU, and they had the AAA Travel Expo on Saturday, and you guys all attended. They were absolutely thrilled. And from what Matt Goins told me, that Matt Godbout is putting together a trip for this show, a getaway for this show. Now, remember, we've done this in the past. This goes back a number of years, actually about 12. One summer, the summer of 2014, we put together a travel package with this show and went to Alaska together. And I had an incredible time. Incredible. So now, evidently, we're doing that again. So I'll let you know all about that. All right, thank you. I'm okay to say that here. So I don't know who the dude is that's going to be doing Pat's job here, but Pat Boylan is going to move over and do the play-by-play. James, help me out on this because I'm getting this all at once here. Chris Denari's not going to be able to make Pacers TV.
That is correct.
Tonight,
that is correct.
Sickness in the family is what's going on. So he's going to be unavailable tonight. And we're thinking about, we love Chris and the family. We're thinking about Chris. And Pat Boylan's going to step over and do the play-by-play for the Nuggets and the Pacers on Pacers TV tonight, right?
Correct. Yep.
So we're going to have a different host here on Pacer Radio.
Yes, we will. Eddie mentioned who it was, and I'm completely blanking on the name right now. So my apologies.
Yes, we're thinking about you, Chris. So no Chris Denari tonight on the television broadcast, and Pat Boylan will be in charge of the play-by-play. Now we're thinking about you, Chris. Sickness, illness, if you will, in the family. That we all know this. It's just you gotta. Those are things that are more important than anything. So we are thinking about you. Go ahead, James.
It'll be John Nolan filling in on Pat's end over here.
John Nolan. All right. That's John Nolan right here tonight on the radio network here. 6:30 your coverage begins. And the Nuggets and the Pacers downtown at Gainbridge Fieldhouse. All right, 239-1070 is the number. We had started with this. If you're on hold, I'll get to you. But Brent, many years ago, called in with a legendary take regarding the Colts and putting together a team. He is lobbying to be a part of the decision-making process of the Colts organization moving forward. He has been on hold. He is ready to go legendary once again. Brent, thank you for holding. Go ahead.
JMV, I do need your help with that. And I know I referenced Dane Fife as a reference, but I need your help with that too. We need to get in Irsay's ear or somebody's ear in regards to that. But anyways, let me go on with my topics, and I know what you want at the end, and I'll give that to you when I talk about the philosophy of the defense. But what I want to talk about is what we need to do in the draft this year. we need a franchise quarterback, JMV. Anthony Richardson is not the answer whatsoever. He's terrible. The two quarterbacks that I have targeted, one is next year. The other one is actually in the league. Plays for the Minnesota Vikings. Do you know who that is?
You want Sam Darnold?
That is wrong.
No.
That is incorrect.
Incorrect.
J.J. McCarthy.
What makes you think that they're going to dump him?
I had him scouted as the number one quarterback back in that draft class. I had Caleb Williams back down around 5.
Okay, but what makes you think that they're going to want to get rid of him?
Who, J.J. McCarthy?
Yeah.
Well, maybe because they want Sam Darnold.
Really?
If they want, they can't have both.
Well, I know. That's why I think he's going to end up someplace else. There's going to be a one-and-done situation for him. Now, he had a great season. You don't take that away from him. Now, the lasting memory was not good in the postseason, but a great season nonetheless. They're just going to go with the guy that they drafted high in the youth at that position, are they not?
Well, that's unfortunately, that's what I'm hoping they don't think about. And that's why I have him graded so high. J.J. McCarthy, he's a total winner. His whole career, I don't know if you know this, but all through high school and college, he's lost one game in his entire career starting quarterback. That was the semifinal game against TCU. I don't know if you remember that game, but he actually played great that game. And I don't know, it was like,
Hey, I respect your knowledge right here, but I'm looking for a Brent take that brings back the great memories.
Yes, you're going to get that. You will get that.
Well, I got to have it right. I've got to have instant gratification, Brent. We've got to have it right now.
All right, got it. All right, I'll talk about the philosophy of the defense. I want our faces painted in skeletons, snakes, Darth Maul. I want us pissing our pants on the field. I want us smelly. We're going to be wearing snake eye contacts. When we come off the field after a 3-and-out, they're going to have intestines, spleens, and scrotums hanging from their face masks. I want to lead the league in broken ribs. Total.
Why are we having scrotums hanging from the face mask here? Why is that happening?
Because we're intense. We're eating balls. We're eating balls for lunch at 1:00.
This is going exactly how I'd hoped it would go to this point. Continue. Yes.
We're eating balls for lunch at 1:00. JMV.
We're eating. Okay, go ahead, Brent.
So,
Brent, listen.
That was the take that you wanted.
Yes. No. Yeah. We got to go really quick because that's exactly what I was looking for, Brent. That's why everybody loves you.
But I need to talk about my trade that we need to make.
All right, go quickly on the trade stuff.
Thank you. We trade Anthony Richardson, Jonathan Taylor, and Pittman to the Raiders. What do you think we get out of that? Do you think we get the first-round pick and something else?
I don't think they do any of that, but that's just me.
Well, if they're going to have to trade up for a quarterback, Cam Ward or Shadur Sanders, both of those are busts. I think Anthony Richardson is actually better than both of those guys. That way also, too, they don't have to trade up and give other assets away. They can give away just their 6th pick, or I think they're 6th or 7th. I don't know what they're drafted. I think it's 6th or 7th.
Hey,
yeah. 8, would you say 8th?
Yeah. Hey, Brent, hold on one second. Brent. Again, a tremendous take about the the scrotums and stuff. But that to me is your niche, my brother. That's your niche.
No, my niche is actually my mind is fabulous.
I'm not denying that your mind sounds fabulous. I'm just saying your niche is to come across with a hardline emotional take. I don't think it is breaking down exactly what you want. To me, you're not an analytical thinker. You're like a hardcore emotional dude. So you stick with your niche right there. Is that not fair of me to say?
Hey, did I give you what you wanted
listen,
to hear?
you had me at scrotums. You did. Thank you. Hey, Brent, thank you very much, man. It's great to hear from you again after about 4 years. Yeah, you had me at hanging scrotums from face masks. I just think, am I wrong about this? Believe me, my judgment can be off too. I just think that he is much better with takes like the Gargoyles and Saturn and face mask scrotums. And not so much just kind of analytical breakdown of the team roster and deals you need to do.
There's been a lot of discussion on the groin area today.
Yeah. I don't know if that's just something that happens on this show or what.
We talk about groins and people swear.
Yeah. Oh, people were all over me about that yesterday. I'm sorry. Anthony Leal, do I think he meant to kind of kick off and start down the floor against Caleb First? Yes. Do I think he meant to step on his sack? No. Again, I am an expert on ball taps. And not because I do that, but from being a witness of 55 years of carrying him around, I feel as if I'm an expert. That was not a premeditated sack stomp. It was an accident. Now, did he mean to step off of first? Probably. Did he mean to step off of first on his sack? No. Believe me, if there's something I'm an expert at, it is that. 55 years. Again, 55 years of carrying stuff around, I think will make us all pretty expert. That was, as I mentioned at the start of the show, mentioned yesterday and took a lot of grief for, that was what we like to call a play on, and not 10 minutes of deciding what you should have let roll in the first place. Am I right about Brent, though? It's got to be.
Yeah, I think. Stick to the wheelhouse.
Yeah. The J.J. McCarthy and the Darnold thing, yeah, not happening. But the other stuff was pretty good. I'll deal with the other stuff.
Could be another rejoiner in there, maybe.
Maybe so. People were telling me that still there was some legendary stuff in there. He described what time he was going to eat lunch at 1 o'clock. All right, if you're on hold, I'll get to you. We got Anything Goes coming up here after 6 o'clock as well. No Cristaneri on the television broadcast tonight. And again, well wishes to the fam. I know he's got an illness in the family. And we are thinking about Chris. He is a no doubt loved basic family member of this show and all the others here. So we're thinking about Chris. And it's going to be Pat Boylan doing play-by-play of the television broadcast coming up later on tonight. Nuggets, Pacers, Cambridge Fieldhouse. That tip time's at 7. 6:30 coverage begins right here. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
goes on, yeah, and the beat goes on. 93.5 and 107.5, The Fan.
All right, so I got a show for you here. Number 9 at 239-1070. Dropkick Murphys and Bad Religion. That's a Tuesday, August the 5th. Everwise Amphitheater, White River State Park. Number 9 at 239-1070. We would love to have you as a part of that show. The Dropkick Murphys and Bad Religion at 239-1070 is the number for you right here. Number 9 is going to be a winner. We do have Anything Goes coming up at the top of the hour. Chris Denary, not a part of the broadcast later on tonight. An illness in the family. And it will be Pat Boylan on the television broadcast doing play-by-play with Quinn, JJ, and Eddie Gill on the TV broadcast as well. Of course, we got you on the radio covered too. 7 o'clock tip time and 6:30 coverage begins. That is later on tonight right here on The Fan. Meantime, James, 239-1070. Mark has been on hold for a minute. Mark, welcome to the show. How are you?
Hi, JMV. How are you this evening?
Great.
Sir?
Mark, go ahead.
Well, I got a lot to unload. I'm glad you got a break there between myself and Brent. I love his defensive take. If the Colts do start collecting scrotums on face masks defensively, maybe you see a Lombardi trophy there in Indy again.
I think any mention of scrotums on this show is kind of funny, so I'll take it.
I like it. I'm good with it. I can get windy here. I don't mean to. I'm just a little bit younger than you, not much. Grew up similar to you. Grew up in rural Hamilton County where we had 4 stations, and it was IU and Purdue all the time.
Right
I am a devoted IU. I have to keep myself in check. I'm a super fan. But I want to feed a little bit off of what Coach Painter said. And you might have touched on this earlier. I did get to hear Jake talk about it some. And, you know, John, I think we might be at an epic moment in the history of this rivalry and these two programs. You know, Painter has done, I think, a really good job. I have to respect that he's not embraced NIL, but it is coming to our doorsteps. I'm the traditionalist. I wish it wasn't, but we're here. And he has every right to call out the fans for, you know, flip-flopping and turning on coaches. But I would also advise him to remember, you know, with IU having a top 3, to our knowledge, pay in NIL, are we now in an age of instant gratification? And does it make us rabid fans even more rabid? It is a really interesting time, if you ask me.
No, I got you. I got you on that. There's no doubt.
You know, how does Purdue now play with the NIL? And, you know, I've fired shots at Painter, but, you know, I think any Hoosiers fan that's going to be honest would trade those guys spots in these last 20 years that he's been there. But is that enough anymore? Is, you know, one Final Four in 20 years? And I get it. I know I'm comparing apples to oranges, but I think it's going to be the most critical thing ever to get this coaching hire correct at Bloomington. And I think it's critical for the Paint crew to figure out how to play in the NIL world and keep it, you know, the Painter way and the way he does things, which I do respect. But it's obvious that he's going to have to shift a little, you know, as we go on with this. And what if the NIL doesn't win national titles? It's just insane to me. All this money spent in Bloomington, and we definitely have to question the results as of thus far. And I respect where he's coming from with his comments yesterday. You want to tear him up, but I'm afraid the man's right. But what does this all look like? Where do we go?
It is more year to year.
I agree.
Than it ever has been. And I mean, for everybody. Now, for the mid-majors, I'll give you a great example. Like my Sycamores, you go from a year last year where everybody was thrilled with the NIT final and just having an enjoyable year, and then you get poached from all your good players, and you go back down again. That's going to be tough, even more so tough for the mid-majors, but it is as year to year as it ever has been. And I will tell you this, there is going to be a delicate balance that we're talking about here. Yeah, between utilizing NIL, because you don't just say, well, you're a top 5 NIL type of team and you're going to win, because there is a lot to be said about not being a bounty hunter in this case, not being a hired hitman and coming in for 1 year because you're getting the most money, but also, being true to what you want to be a part of, right? Embracing what you want to be a part of. And I think it's going to be increasingly more difficult than it ever has been to try to find what is going to be a delicate balance. And honestly, I will say this, Mark, I think so much of this is going to matter at the tail end of the season. I think we all get into what you look like in November and December and January, but to win a national title, it is who is on the same page at the end of the year now more than ever. And there's going to be that balance, and the coaches are going to have to find that balance or find something different, I'm assuming, at some point, because there's no getting away from it anytime soon.
Well, and you can back your point up there. A prime example would be right now UConn. Correct me if I'm incorrect. I don't believe they're even in the top 25 at the moment. Had some success early, obviously defending national champions by a mile, and they're not even the 25 team anymore. Now it could change in a week, but yeah, this year-to-year changes. And then how long of a rope at the programs where the alumni or whoever ends up dumping tons of money, call it the top 10, top 15, how long of a rope do they give any coach? I think it is.
How long are those resources going to last anyway? And Mark, thank you for the call, man. I got to hit a top of the hour break here. However, I also look at it this way. I thought we saw that with IU yesterday. You have to have those that are invested and have that belief. Like Indiana kids, to me, are still just as important as it is to get the NIL accurate, to get that right. I just thought IU was a great example of that yesterday. You never would have known it, but where are you without Galloway? Where are you without Leal? Where are you without Goody? All dudes from this state that get it. You have to have that level. Certainly you have to have that level here. All right, quick break. We'll come back. Some Anything Goes at 239-1070 on the other side. Line up some calls. We'll get you to the Pacer broadcast coming up at the bottom of the hour. Sit tight. Anything Goes, 239-1070. Me and you next.
All right, Hamilton. 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
I got some we got time for some anything goes here. Chris Kramer re-racked the former Boiler guard a little bit earlier regarding yesterday's IU-Purdue game and his thoughts on the Boilers and really that second-half turnaround by the Hoosiers, which was impressive defensively to start with. So that's coming up to anything goes at 239-1070. Got time? Go ahead and join us. Again, bottom of the hour, Pacer pregame show with us. No Chris Denary on the broadcast tonight. Pat Boylan in charge, the television play-by-play, and the second of a back-to-back has the Denver Nuggets here, which should be incredibly enjoyable tonight. Pacers with wins over Memphis and the Clippers so far as they restart after the All-Star break. And then later on this week, the Raptors, I know on Friday on the road against Miami. NFL Combine for us tomorrow. You've got Lou Anarumo with me in the 5 o'clock hour, the new defensive coordinator of the Colts, and a lot more for you. Later on this week, we got a Thursday show at Connor's Pub in Broad Ripple with Heaven Hill Distillery and Brent Halverson. We have a Friday gathering at Tom's Watch Bar downtown. Make sure you're a part of it. All right, anything goes at 239-1070. We'll do that leading up to Chris Kramer, and we'll re-rack that conversation from earlier in the show. Simon's going to lead here after 6 o'clock. Hello, Simon. How are you?
I'm awesome, John. Thanks for taking my call. Listen, I've been waiting the better part of 2 weeks to have this conversation, and I know you don't do politics, but I got to go there. You drive in from Hendricks County, you drive in from Johnson County, you drive in from Hamilton County. Your car will flip over with potholes. I don't know what the hell's going on, but somebody needs to figure this out. Your guys at Express Pro and AAA are the only ones getting any benefit from this, but these politicians locally need to figure out what the hell's going on. Miles is the man. I'm done. All
right, Simon, thank you very much. Legalize weed? Pay for the pothole. James with a double thumbs up right there. Weed legalization and fill the potholes. Hell, I don't know. He's right about the potholes, though.
Use the pot to fill the potholes.
Yeah, that makes sense. That'll happen about the time I'm dead. I would assume. I don't know what that timetable is. I don't know if that's like tomorrow or I know it's a morbid thought. That's always my choice to go, right? And people are going to say, oh, man, what are you, a druggie? Are you a pot? No, I'm not actually, because this stuff puts me to sleep. I always thought that, too. You go to a party and somebody breaks it out back in the day, and the last thing you want to do is be the first one to doze off, because then you're the first one to end up in a lot of unfortunate photographs. But, yes, that's my choice. And Miles has been the man. There's no doubt about that. Essential personnel. We'll see if he's matched up against Jokic coming up later on tonight. That is one thing. You saw Zubats and you saw Edey struggle with coming out and defending him. And Jokic is already used to out there playing. So that's going to see how that may – I'm not going to suggest even itself out because Jokic is one of the top players in the NBA. But that is a matchup that you've been able to see, and it's been fruitful for the Pacers. We'll see how that is ironed out coming up later on tonight against the Nuggets. Fulton is next on Anything Goes at 239-1070. Hi, Fulton.
Hello, John. I'm at my basketball game.
You're at the basketball game right now?
Yeah, I'm going to be playing basketball tonight.
Are you really? How many points are you going to go for, buddy?
I'll probably go like 30 points.
30 points? That's pretty impressive. You got a good jump shot?
Maybe. I'll try to do the jump shot.
Yeah, I can imagine that. All right, well, go get them and report back and tell me how we're doing, okay?
Yep, we'll call the Hampton County Chargers if you want to shut us out.
Hey, let me tell you this. Earth, Wind, and Fire, you're going to be on stage again in July, correct?
Yes.
It's incredible. Keep us updated, buddy.
I sure will. Thanks.
Fulton's on his way to his basketball game and going to be on stage with his ukulele with Earth, Wind, and Fire in July, which is incredible. Anything goes, and Ryan's next. Hello, Ryan.
JMV, good evening, sir.
Yes, sir, Ryan. Go ahead.
Just wanted to thank you first off for the Billy Joel Sting tickets. My wife and I had an outstanding time. It was an awesome show.
That's what I've heard, yes.
Secondly, you were talking to Don Fisher a couple days ago about Mike Woodson not doing his pre- and post-game interviews anymore.
Right.
And the overall vibe of the convo was I don't know, just didn't want to deal with the media. But it randomly made me think of an interview you did, and it was probably almost 15 years ago. I was driving home when I worked in Columbus. I'm driving up through Edinburgh on 31, and you were talking to TJ Ford on the radio, and it was right around the time where he either got released or got cut, and it just made me think. I remember feeling the secondhand awkwardness of that whole interview because I literally heard the pain in your voice of how just tough of an interview, and he just kept on saying he wanted to play, and it was just there was a business and whatnot. It made me randomly think of that. Lastly, I got to give a shout out to the Suburban Christian Crusaders, looking to repeat their state championship this week, starting tomorrow night here on the South Side. Go Crusaders, baby!
You got it. Thank you very much, Ryan, for that. Jonathan, close it out on Anything Goes. How are you, sir?
Hey, JMV, do you hear me? Can you hear me well?
I hear you great, Jonathan.
All right, right on. Thanks for the call, man. I just got to say, a big reason why I really enjoyed watching the Purdue-IU game yesterday was I finally got to watch basketball with effort and heart. When I saw Braden Smith dive for that loose ball in the first half, oh, my gosh, dude, I loved it. And I'm an IU fan. So I appreciated it, the hustle and all that. But I just you don't see that all the time. You don't see it as much anymore, especially in the NBA. And I know it sucks, man, but I think that was the big. You definitely. Thank you, Jonathan, for the call. You definitely saw that yesterday, and you saw that with a desire of a lot of IU kids that grew up watching IU basketball around here, which is the conversation. Former Boilermaker guard Chris Kramer on the show a little bit earlier about that IU win and the Purdue losing streak. The Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Hello, Chris. How are you?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Got a team searching clearly for solutions. I thought you had a head coach, and maybe not directly, but certainly calling out a couple of his guys in the post-game presser. Where does your former team, in your estimation, go from here?
Man, there's only two ways to go. You're going to stay on the same track, and you have three more games, one Big Ten tournament game, and potentially a NCAA tournament game, and that's going to be it. Or you're going to find a way to right the ship, come together, find some connectiveness, some cohesiveness, play for that name on the front of the jersey, and find a way to get this thing rolling in the right direction. And it's a collective effort. It's got to be everybody. Everybody's got to be moving in the right way, in the right direction. So everybody's got to be on the same page. There's definitely been discipline breakdown issues the past four games. But the good news for Purdue fans is there's still time to get this thing figured out before March.
So Chris Kramer joins us. I don't know how you felt coming out of halftime. I thought Purdue had established, taken complete control, and I know that the second half performances have been oftentimes lackluster here in the past month, but I did not expect the defensive domination by IU and the complete and utter offensive discombobulation by the Boilers.
Yeah. To say I am right there with you is an understatement. I felt like at halftime it was kind of like Mortal Kombat a little bit, and we have them, and it's just like, hey, we need to throw a couple haymakers here, and we can blow this thing wide open. The unfortunate part of that was we turned the ball over, gave up 7 points in about a minute, and things just completely derailed and snowballed from there. IU, to all the credit, came out and just completely took Purdue out of everything offensively. Miles Rice, Anthony Leal were incredible defensively. Trey Galloway, Malik Renew were awesome offensively. And collectively, there's no way around it. They just kicked the shit out of Purdue.
Chris Kramer's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. So you mentioned players only meeting last week, and who knows whether or not they had one. You may know by now, but if you're the leader of this team, I'm assuming you would have had it last week, but it is more than time to come together as a group of team members right now and right this ship, correct?
Absolutely. The leader's got to lead, and we can be nice about it, and we can have a kumbaya moment of like, hey man, this is what we got to do, we got to come together, or we can get real, and we're not going to get personal, but we're going to have a quote unquote come to Jesus moment with everybody in the team, and how we're going to right this thing, because right now it is make or break. There is 3 games left. Purdue has great potential. You've seen that, this season. But also Purdue can beat themselves, and you've seen that too. So which team is going to show up and, enter the court? Each half can be completely different. And the thing that, needs to happen that, we need to see is, as fans, is just the team that goes out there and just lays it all on the line, just plays as hard as they can, because playing hard is going to take care of a lot of things. It's not always going to be pretty. Basketball is a game of mistakes. There's turnovers, but, not all turnovers are created equal. Live ball turnovers can be absolute killers, and that's what ultimately sparked IU feeling good. And then when a team feels good and gets confidence, man, even if they've lost, 6 out of 7, once good teams with good players get their heads up, man, it can be a long night. And that's what ultimately happened in the second half, for IU against Purdue.
Yeah, it's Chris Kramer, the former Boiler Guards on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Purdue Friday at home versus UCLA. We can get into that in a second. But did we hear your head coach, your former head coach, Matt Painter, calling out some guys in that post-game presser yesterday? Is that what you heard?
Yeah, I think so. But, I think there's a right and a wrong way to do it. I think he did it the right way. With great opportunity comes a great responsibility. And you've earned this opportunity to be leaders on this team and, all of those things. And there's a responsibility that comes with that. So, it just comes with looking at yourself in the mirror. Did I lay it on the line? Could I have played better? How could I have played better? And just, correcting those things, correcting the mistakes defensively. So, hopefully it sparked a fire underneath these guys to, first of all, want to correct it. They don't need to correct it for anybody other than themselves. The thing that I think Purdue fans lose is that they can be pissed off, they can be mad after a loss, but if Purdue losing a basketball game is the worst thing in their life, then life is pretty good. And no matter how bad they feel, the players and the coaching staff feel even worse. So it's all about perspective, but he definitely called out some people. And on Friday night, I'm ready for a big response from some of those guys.
Give me a solution, and especially coming off of that game, some of the disappointments you saw in your former team in the second half and some solutions starting at the top. before I cut you loose here on Friday against UCLA?
I think, first of all, Braden needs to be aggressive. I've said it all year. An aggressive Braden is the best Braden. Whether that's, being aggressive off the pick and roll, taking shots, or getting in deep, creating, spraying out for threes, he has to be aggressive in creating for himself and for each other, or for others. I mean, when he gets hesitant and kind of loses confidence, ultimately it takes a whole dimension out of the team, and he needs to play with the utmost confidence because his teammates and the coaching staff have all that confidence in him. Trey Kaufman-Renn needs to get back to being the absolute monster. And then I think when people come in double, finding that pass out, reposting again, trying to get a deeper position, and, looking for that ball back and then making quick moves. But we can talk about offense all we want. It's going to come down to defensively flying around, getting back to dictating and shutting off the water of the other team like Purdue did in that second half of that last 10 minutes of the first half. Just completely took everything IU wanted away, and were able to flip the script and be up 12 at halftime. They got to do that collectively for 40 minutes, and just leaving it on the floor. They got to be the first of the floor for loose balls. They have to win every 50-50 ball. They have to stop complaining and bitching about the refs, and just go out there and play. Complaining to the refs, no matter who it is, no matter if you're the leader or a role player, it's not going to do any good. Refs have egos. It's national televised games. They don't want to get shown up. It's ultimately just going to screw you more. Just go out there and play and control what you can control.
Before I let you go, you mentioned passing out of the double teams and reestablishing low post presence and position. Malik Renew, I thought, was spectacular with that in the second half yesterday. I thought really offensively that was one of the keys. Locking down defensively was at the top of the list, but when they came over and double team Malik Renew, he would find a cutting Galloway or a corner wide open look from Goody. I thought he was excellent in the second half doing that.
Yeah, he was phenomenal. I would say some of those were breakdowns defensively, but when a team breaks down, you have to punish them, and IU was able to do that. Malik Renew, 7 for 7 from the field, and that's with him getting in foul trouble. But I think the coaching staff for IU deserved a lot of credit, making a bold move and sitting Ballo and Mbako to start the game, and then Mbako playing. I don't even think he touched the court in the second half.
He did not. He did not get subbed in, no.
Rolling with Leal and Galloway, Miles Rice. Those guys came, and they came out of the locker room in the second half with a vengeance. And, they dominated that second half. So, ultimately, sad for Purdue, but you got to give credit to IU. They came out and they just came to another level that second half.
It is Chris Kramer right there. I saw, and I got to run here, but you were exhausted by the social media postings from Boilermaker fans, kind of as similar as it appears Matt Painter is exhausted about reading everything right on social media about basketball.
Yeah, I think, social media is a great thing. It's put these guys in position to earn money off of it and all that things, name, image, and likeness. But the caveat to that is they see everything, the good and the bad. And to just compound and pile on these guys when they're down isn't going to help anything. We need to support them. We need to, they need to fill Mackey on Friday night and come out and support those guys and do everything that as fans we can do to help Purdue win that game and hopefully turn one game into a winning streak and get rolling as they head into March.
Hey, I tell you what, Chris, too, Big Ten tournament-wise, if you're down for a game or something, we're doing a show that day or you have time, stop by and you can do some live minutes with us on the air, too. We'd really enjoy that.
Okay, man. Sounds good. I'll let you know.
You got it, Chris. Thanks.